It seemed like a dream come true for her. However, as we started talking about the wedding plans, I noticed a change in her behavior. Mia began having very strong opinions about everything, from the venue to the guest list, and even what I should wear. It felt like she wanted to control every part of the wedding, making it more about her vision than ours. William was stuck in the middle, trying to keep both his mom and me happy, which made things even harder. As the wedding planning went on, the tension grew, and it started affecting my relationship with William. We began arguing about things that usually wouldn't bother us, all because we were trying to balance our wishes with Mia's expectations. I realized if we didn't deal with this soon, it could harm our future together. So, I suggested that William and I have a private talk to align our priorities and figure out how to handle the situation with Mia carefully. We agreed that our wedding should reflect what we both wanted and believed in. While we wanted to consider Mia's input, it was important for us to set clear boundaries. Together, we decided to sit down with Mia and gently but firmly explain our point of view. We hoped she would understand that while we valued her involvement, the final decisions would be ours. It was crucial for us to communicate openly to ensure our special day felt right for us as a couple. At first, it felt like a big moment, almost like I was gaining a new family member. Mia welcomed me warmly, eager to build a closer relationship. My excitement grew when she stayed with us for the weekend to help with wedding preparations and spend quality time together. I looked forward to bonding with her. However, as the weekend went on, her attitude began to change, and I started to feel uncomfortable. It began subtly on Saturday morning during breakfast. I made my favorite pancakes while William enjoyed his coffee outside. Mia smiled and commented, "Oh, I guess you don't worry too much about carbs, huh?" I laughed it off, but it hurt a little. Later, while looking through wedding dress catalogs, she pointed out a dress, saying it was beautiful but only suited for a certain body type, suggesting it wasn't for someone like me. I tried to brush it off, but her words made me feel self-conscious. During our shopping trip for decorations, Mia made another comment, this time about a friend's daughter who had lost weight for her wedding. She asked if I had considered doing the same. I was surprised and muttered something about being happy with my body, but her judgment was obvious. The next day, she went through my kitchen cupboards and remarked on the number of snacks I had, suggesting I should make healthier choices to avoid gaining weight before the wedding. Her constant focus on my weight was becoming upsetting. Even though her comments were always delivered with a smile and in a kind tone, they felt more and more pointed. What struck me the most was that she never made these remarks when William was around. When he was there, Mia was all charm and sweetness, but the moment he left the room, the criticism started again. It felt like I was living in two different worlds, one where I was loved, and another where I was constantly judged. At first, I didn't want to bring this up with William. We were newly engaged and so happy, and I didn't want to cause any problems. I told myself I could handle the situation. After all, I had always been proud of my curvy figure and confident in my own skin, something I had worked hard to achieve. Mia's comments were more annoying than truly hurtful, and I was determined not to let them affect my self-esteem. But as time went on, Mia's visits became more frequent, cutting into the limited time I had to plan our wedding on the weekends. Whenever I hoped to focus on wedding arrangements, Mia would show up either giving unwanted advice or just hanging around, making it harder for me to stay calm. Her constant presence was starting to stress me out, especially since she always seemed to imply she knew better than I did. One weekend, she called to say she'd be visiting again, and I felt a knot in my stomach. I really needed some alone time to get things organized without her input. Trying to stop her from coming, I mentioned I'd be out looking at wedding dresses. Unexpectedly, she got excited and insisted on coming along. I was caught off guard and didn't know how to refuse without sounding rude, so I had no choice but to agree. I agreed to let Mia come along, and when she arrived, she was very excited, but deep down, I was nervous about how the day would go. As we went to different bridal shops, Mia took on a motherly role, picking out dresses I didn't like and commenting on how certain styles didn't flatter my figure. It was overwhelming. When I finally tried on a dress I really loved, she said it was nice, but maybe too tight around the waist. She suggested I go for something more flowy, to be more flattering. Her comment crushed my excitement, making me second-guess my choice. By the end of the day, I hadn't picked a dress and felt disappointed. Mia went home, and I was relieved to have a break from her constant remarks. But soon after, she started texting, eager to know when I would go dress shopping again. I avoided answering her, determined to keep my next trip a secret. Unfortunately, William accidentally told his mom about my plans, and she quickly called to ask when she could join. Faced with another stressful day with her, I quickly made up an excuse, saying the bridal shop had a rule that only 3 guests were allowed, and my mom and maid of honor were already coming. Mia immediately questioned this strange policy, putting me on the spot. Flustered, I repeated the story and hurriedly ended the call. I felt guilty for lying to her, but I knew I needed to protect my own peace of mind. Even though I felt bad, I reminded myself that this day was supposed to be fun and exciting. I decided to focus on the positives and enjoy the support of my mom and maid of honor. When they picked me up, I put the guilt behind me and focused on having a good time. It didn't take long before I found a dress that felt perfect, almost like it was made just for me. Afterward, Mia stopped calling or texting me. She still spoke to William, which eased any tension between them, but she didn't reach out to me. In my excitement, I sent her a photo of me in the dress, hoping to share my happiness with her. Her only response was a thumbs up emoji. Unsure of how to feel about that, I chose not to dwell on her reaction. As the wedding got closer, my days became so busy with last-minute tasks that I didn't have time to think much about her. When the wedding day finally arrived, everything was perfect. Walking down the aisle toward William felt magical. However, William was too upset to listen to her explanations and demanded she leave immediately. I had never seen him so distressed, and it broke my heart to see him in conflict with his mom on what was supposed to be a joyful day. The mood of the reception quickly turned sour. Guests could sense the tension, and the celebratory atmosphere we had carefully planned vanished. People started leaving early, and soon the reception ended much sooner than expected. The abrupt end to what I had hoped would be a perfect day was devastating. William and I went back to our hotel room, completely drained by the day's events. The emotional toll was heavy, and I felt deeply saddened that what should have been one of the happiest days of my life had been tarnished. After the wedding, Mia tried reaching out to both William and me through texts and calls, but we were too hurt and needed time apart to process everything. William was clearly torn. He loved his mother, but felt deeply betrayed by what she had done. It was a complicated situation with no easy solution. When we returned home after the wedding, I tried to move forward and focus on starting this new chapter of life with William, but memories of that day kept coming back, filling me with regret and wondering what might have been if Mia hadn't pulled her risky prank. Thankfully, our honeymoon provided a much-needed break. We threw ourselves into new experiences, enjoying moments of pure happiness and companionship, free from the recent stress. For those 5 weeks, life felt wonderfully normal, but reality hit as soon as we returned. When we pulled into our driveway, Mia was waiting for us at the doorstep. My heart sank, and anxiety gripped me. I knew this confrontation was coming, but I wasn't ready for it to happen so soon. The worst part was that Mia didn't start with an apology. Instead, she continued to defend her actions, insisting that her prank was harmless and minimizing the seriousness of what she had done. Her refusal to accept responsibility made the conversation even harder. William had finally had enough. He confronted her, explaining that she had crossed a line, and the only way forward was for her to admit her mistake and apologize to me. Until then, he said, their relationship would be limited to holiday gatherings, like distant relatives who only see each other occasionally. Mia was shocked by his firm stance and started to cry, but William stood his ground. I could see how painful it was for him to set these boundaries with his own mother, but he remained steadfast in supporting me. I felt safe and respected with William's support, but things took an unexpected turn when Mia suddenly showed up outside my office one day, surprised and not wanting to cause a scene at work. I agreed to meet her at a small cafe across the street. She was visibly upset, and as soon as we sat down, she broke down in tears, catching the attention of other customers. Mia expressed her disbelief over William's firm stance, saying he wasn't answering her calls or texts. She begged me to talk to him and help restore their relationship to how it was before. However, she still hadn't apologized for what she did at the wedding, acting like it wasn't that serious. I told her that instead of showing up unannounced and making a scene in public, she should take time to think about how her actions had affected both me and William. I reminded her that she had ruined my wedding day, and it wasn't fair for her to expect me to just forget that and convince William to forgive her. When she tried to defend herself, saying she didn't mean any harm and was only sorry about how I reacted, it became clear that she didn't really understand the impact of what she had done. As Mia continued crying, drawing more attention in the cafe, I felt increasingly uncomfortable and just wanted to leave. I told her I would see what I could do, but I didn't make any promises about fixing things between her and William. I left the cafe, still unsure if I could forgive her. Her apology only came after I pushed her for it, which made me hesitant. My mom advised me to forgive my mother-in-law, but I still felt conflicted. What do you all think I should do in this situation?
The cake-cutting ceremony was her dream. You're going to be my wife, so just put up with it. Excuse me? What are you talking about? It was our wedding day. I was at a loss for words, stunned by my husband Eric's outrageous statement. Wait a minute. The bride and groom are supposed to do the cake cutting, right? Why should I let someone else do it? Victoria, Eric's childhood friend wearing an almost white dress, glares at me. Ashley, this is your second marriage, isn't it? You're lucky to be wearing a wedding dress at your age, so you could at least let me do the cake cutting. At least the cake cutting. 3 seconds later, for some reason, the wedding venue staff all stood up at once, and one of them spoke up with a frightening expression. We're terribly sorry, but we must ask you to leave. The guests are also giving Eric and Victoria cold looks. Emboldened by the atmosphere in the room, I glared at Eric and Victoria. I'm done dealing with people like this. I'm going to cut ties with them right here and now. My name is Ashley, and I'm 45 years old. After my husband passed away 10 years ago, I raised our daughter Lauren on my own. It was tough working and raising Lauren at the same time, but with my late husband's inheritance and help from those around me, Lauren successfully entered college 3 years ago. Since then, Eric from the same company had been actively pursuing me, and although I was hesitant, we started dating 2 years ago. Eric was very kind and treated Lauren well too. And half a year ago, Eric finally proposed to me. I will make you happy. Please marry me. I had my doubts about remarrying, but with Lauren's encouragement, I decided to marry Eric this month. Eric's parents had already passed away, and the only relative living nearby now was his cousin and childhood friend, Victoria. As soon as I agreed to the marriage, the 3 of us decided to have dinner together. She's a bit too close, but she's not a bad person. She's like a little sister to me. Please try to get along with her. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Lauren is supportive of my remarriage, and Eric is kind. I've been working hard every day to raise Lauren well, and I plan to continue doing my best for her sake. But maybe it's okay for me to pursue a little happiness for myself too. I was starting to think that way. I never imagined things would turn out like this. We decided to meet Victoria at a French restaurant in the neighborhood. When we arrived at the restaurant, Victoria was already seated at our reserved table. Eric. Long time no see. How've you been? 5 years younger than Eric and 10 years younger than me, Victoria looked vibrant, her stylish appearance brimming with confidence. Wow, marrying your boss? I could never do that. It was an extremely rude thing to say, but I restrained myself from making a face. Disappointed that Eric didn't say anything to her, I greeted Victoria. Nice to meet you. I'm Ashley. Nice to meet you too. I'm Victoria. I heard Eric was marrying his boss, so I imagined someone stuffy, but you're not really like that. You seem plain. It was clear she didn't mean that in a good way either. I just gave a wry smile and took my seat. Victoria, not paying any attention to me, started talking to Eric. Well, thanks to Eric marrying his boss, we get to eat at such a fancy restaurant. I might never come here again, so I'm going to enjoy it to the fullest. I wonder if it's because I'm nervous that her every word sounds sarcastic to me. I sense a strange hostility in the way Victoria looks at me. Pumpkin soup? Didn't Eric used to hate pumpkins? I've finally learned to eat them. But you still don't like them, right? Should I eat it for you? You just want to eat it yourself. The 2 of them are having a lively conversation, while I'm left out. I'm supposed to be marrying Eric, but somehow I feel like an outsider and it's disheartening. We used to go out to eat together in the past, but it was always cheap places. Not that I minded, since we had fun even at cheap restaurants. Neither of us had money back then. But it seems like Eric has money now. Victoria's tone implied that Eric was marrying me for my money. Every time she talks about money, she looks at me. Her gaze is mocking me and feels hostile, which is frightening. Yet she has a smile on her face and talks to me in a cloyingly sweet voice, as if she's trying to cozy up to me. In high school, I stayed over at Eric's house once. Since we're childhood friends, we had a lot of slumber parties and stuff like that, so it wasn't unusual. But that time, Eric got scared after watching a horror movie and couldn't sleep. Hey, cut it out. When are you talking about? That's embarrassing. I kept listening to stories about Eric's past that I didn't know about. The conversation, which should have been heartwarming, had a tension like walking on thin ice, and it was quite exhausting. I was doing my best just to keep a polite smile on my face, not saying anything witty, and just listening to Victoria and Eric's reminiscences the whole time. I was worried that Eric's wife might be some incredibly beautiful, wicked woman. I'm surprised she's just an ordinary person. She seems steady even after marriage, so that's a relief. Even when she says something like that with a condescending look, I can't even come up with a good retort. Perhaps pleased by my constant smiling, Victoria spoke to me in an even sweeter voice. You have a 20-year-old daughter, right? It must be hard raising her on your own. Ashley, you look like you've had a tough time. Do I? Yes, you do. Didn't you consider remarrying anyone besides Eric? The atmosphere feels like it's frozen. Eric frowns slightly as he looks at Victoria, but he doesn't seem to be about to say anything. Disappointed that he's not helping me, I choose my words carefully. Not really. I was preoccupied with my daughter, and I only started dating Eric because he asked me out. If it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have remarried even now. Victoria's face contorts. She doesn't seem to like my response, and looks like she's about to click her tongue. But she quickly changes it to an exaggerated fake smile. Huh. I guess you two are alike? Eric doesn't have any female friends besides me either, and he's not popular with women at all. She probably means to say that I'm also just not sought after by the opposite sex. After being constantly insulted throughout today's dinner, I no longer felt any irritation. Perhaps my emotions have gone numb from enduring too much. All that's left is a terrible sense of fatigue. I don't feel irritated, but in exchange, I barely remember the taste of the food either. After parting with Victoria, Eric was in high spirits. Victoria is like a little sister to me, so please try to get along with her. Does he not think anything of the conversation at today's dinner? Do I have to get along with someone who says such nasty things and looks down on me like that? It was the first event that made me anxious about marrying Eric. Perhaps realizing that I was having doubts about the marriage, Eric suggested that we have a wedding ceremony. Lauren aspires to be a lawyer, so there will be tuition fees to pay for years to come. There are various other things I want to prepare for as well, so I was reluctant to have a wedding. Initially, Eric was inclined to respect my wishes, but since the dinner the other day, he's been insisting on having a wedding ceremony. Since we're getting married, let's do it properly. I want my colleagues and friends to celebrate with us. Okay. Well, if you insist. Eric and I visited various wedding venues together. We considered options like having a members-only wedding or inviting only close relatives. However, Eric was unenthusiastic about a small-scale wedding. It's my first marriage, so I want to invite people from work and stuff. If he goes that far, I have no choice but to opt for a conventional wedding. Among the few candidates, we decided to proceed with preparations at a venue where we felt good about the staff. But this is where the real trouble began. Victoria was telling me that there's a balloon performance, right? How about we do that? Apparently it's quite popular. If you want to do it, Eric, then sure. Suddenly, the name of a woman other than myself came up, and the staff looked surprised for a moment. But they quickly returned to a smile and presented a plan. If that's the case, we have a plan like this as well. As expected of professionals. I also listened to the staff's suggestions and put together a plan. Victoria said buffets are popular, didn't she? Is that so? And what was it? Oh, she said she dreams of having a candle service. It went on like this the whole time, with Victoria's name coming up whenever he expressed an opinion. Even the staff were exasperated by this, and some of them looked at me with pity. Oh, Victoria said. Hey, this is our wedding, isn't it? Do Victoria's opinions matter that much? After saying it for the umpteenth time, I finally raised my voice. Eric seemed surprised by my attitude, apparently not expecting it. Don't get so angry. I was just trying to make various suggestions because you didn't seem enthusiastic, Ashley. But they're not your opinions. It makes me worried about our future life together, He seemed scared of me getting irritated after all. Eric hurriedly darted his eyes around. I'm sorry. I didn't have anything else to refer to. I thought this might be what women dream of, so I didn't mean any harm. I'm not entirely satisfied, but I can't argue further in front of the wedding venue staff. So then, what kind of atmosphere are you hoping for, Ashley? Well, I'd like a wedding where the guests can enjoy themselves and celebrate with us. In that case, how about a flower shower performance? The guests will enjoy it too, and the whole venue will celebrate together, so it's been a popular choice for many years. Yes, a flower shower sounds lovely. The planner also made various other suggestions, like preparing the dress and the video to play at the wedding. They were considerate of me, who had gotten irritated, and tried to ensure I could enjoy the wedding. Honestly, the wedding venue staff were far more attentive to me than Eric, who kept insensitively talking about Victoria. Just as we somehow finished the arrangements, an event occurred that increased my fatigue even further. Oh, hello. I was in the neighborhood, so I dropped by your house. Incredibly, Victoria showed up at my house unannounced. Eric is currently living at my house. It's the house my late husband left for me and Lauren, but we started living together half a year ago when considering remarriage. Victoria must have heard the address of this house from Eric. When I glance at Eric, he welcomes Victoria in as if he doesn't mind at all. What the heck? You could at least contact us first. Sorry. I felt a bit of distrust towards Eric, who was acting as if it were his own home. Certainly, Eric lives here too, but it was originally my house. A friend suddenly shows up without any prior notice, and he doesn't even feel bad about it. This house is kinda different from Eric's taste. Well, it's not a new home, so I guess it can't be helped. Victoria, who barged into the house on her own, is already beginning to behave rudely. Why do I have to invite someone like this into my home? Ashley, I'm so jealous that you get to have a wedding twice in your life. I might not even get to do it once, so I'm envious. Sitting down on the living room sofa without permission, Victoria looked at me and laughed. I mentioned it at work too, and everyone was surprised. They said you're having a wedding for the second time. Her gaze was clearly mocking. Partly because I was tired, I found it difficult to even force a polite smile and just stayed silent. Victoria seems quite pleased to see me not arguing back, and she's in a much better mood than at the dinner the other day. Maybe you were tired? You're not young anymore, so don't push yourself too hard. If something happens right after getting married, I'd feel sorry for Eric. Hey, Victoria. Even Eric stops her, as her way of speaking is too terrible. However, he didn't raise his voice or scold her. I had thought Eric was a kind person until now, but maybe that was a misunderstanding. Ah, yes. Well then, I'm looking forward to the wedding. With a storm-like commotion, Victoria left in the blink of an eye. Sorry. She's always been the type who can't read the room. I see. So this person doesn't scold her himself and blames everything on others? I don't want to be involved with Victoria and her lack of common sense, but I was starting to feel strong distrust towards Eric as well. I might not be able to find happiness even if I marry this person. But I've already told the company about the marriage, and we've gotten married. All that's left is the wedding ceremony. Considering canceling the wedding and getting divorced in this situation, I knew I would be plagued by even more fatigue than now. Plus, with us working at the same company, I'm worried about rumors and such. I can't quit my job for Lauren's sake either. I wondered how things had turned out this way, but I couldn't find an answer. Despite hesitating and feeling lost, I was unable to make a decisive judgment, and the wedding day finally arrived. The wedding, with invited company associates, friends, and relatives from both sides, was a fairly large scale, and I felt a bit heavy-hearted. Victoria was among the invited guests. I felt embarrassed thinking about the other guests witnessing her outrageous behavior. I'm worried. What's wrong? It looks like it'll be a good wedding. I'm looking forward to it. Eric doesn't seem to understand anything. I'm too weary to even explain, so I just smile vaguely. Sure enough, the answer to who was right between me and Eric came out immediately. This is the kind of wedding I'd always dreamed of. It's great. I bet I can take some nice photos. At the wedding venue, Victoria was frolicking about as if she were the star of the show. She seemed busy taking selfies in front of decorations she liked. And her dress was a whitish beige. The long dress with a floral lace motif looked like something you'd wear to a wedding reception. She was acting as if she were the main character. "Oh, Ashley. Your wedding dress is absolutely gorgeous. You look like a different person. White really stands out, it makes you look younger." All the guests, including those invited by Eric, had unpleasant expressions on their faces. "You must be used to it by now, since it's your second time. The venue looks totally amazing." She directed rude words at me, not caring about the atmosphere of the venue or the reactions of those around us. "Are you going to read a letter to your daughter instead of your parents? I didn't know that was a real thing." "That's kind of interesting." Her words and actions were beyond the pale. Her outrageous lack of common sense was shocking even to Lauren, a college student. "Ma'am, please return to your seat. What's the big deal? It's fine for a little bit." "You're disturbing the other guests." Such exchanges had taken place many times since Victoria arrived at the wedding venue. "I'm deeply glad we didn't opt for a buffet-style reception. I hate having to scold her over and over, but it would be even more troublesome if I couldn't get her back to her seat and she did as she pleased. I rally myself to endure until this wedding is over." However, an incident occurred that easily shattered my resolve. During the cake cutting, Victoria suddenly stood up from her seat. "Ashley, move. This is my time to shine." "Huh?" Before I knew it, I had been pushed aside by Victoria, and she and Eric were at the center of the venue. Eric was smiling, but the staff, myself, and the other guests were all dumbfounded. "Yes. I've always wanted to do the cake cutting." "Wait a minute. Why is Victoria trying to do it?" To my bewildered self, a smiling Eric says, "This girl has always dreamed of doing the cake cutting. You're my wife, so just put up with it." "Excuse me?" I was already fed up with Victoria's outrageous behavior, but now Eric, who should be on my side, was saying something utterly ridiculous, leaving me at a loss for words. "Hold on a second. The cake cutting? Something that the bride and groom are supposed to do. Why do I have to let someone else do it?" Victoria glares at me. Her dress, close to white, has a design that could pass for a modest wedding dress. It's becoming unclear which one of us is the star of the show. "Ashley, this is your second wedding, right? You're lucky to be wearing a wedding dress at your age, so you could at least let me do the cake cutting." "The cake cutting, at least?" I couldn't ignore her comment about the wedding dress either, but I also couldn't believe she was trying to do the cake cutting. I was rendered speechless. 3 seconds later, for some reason, the wedding venue staff all stood up at once, and one of them spoke up with a frightening expression. "We're terribly sorry, but we must ask you to leave." The invited guests are also glaring coldly at Eric and Victoria. Until a moment ago, I felt like I alone had turned the whole world against me, but it seems I'm not alone. Emboldened by the atmosphere in the venue, I glared at Eric and Victoria. "Why? Eric said it was okay, didn't he?" As Victoria raises her voice, the wedding venue staff fight back without backing down. "This is not your wedding. You're disturbing the other guests." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Eric, we're childhood friends, so why do I have to be treated like this?" "Say something to them." Put on the spot by Victoria, Eric looks uncomfortable, cowed by the venue's atmosphere. What a pathetic person. In this situation, he doesn't scold Victoria or refuse her. Far from it, he doesn't even have the backbone to firmly stand up for Victoria. The most he does is ask the angry staff in a restrained voice. "I told you during the meeting, right? That I wanted to let Victoria do the cake cutting too." "What's that? I never heard about it." The venue is also abuzz. The staff replies to Eric with a stony expression. "We did hear you out. However, as there is no precedent for such a sequence of events, we informed you that we would also confirm with Ashley, at which point you said you would speak to her, but we never received a response after that. Therefore, we did not plan for such a sequence of events." Of course not. A wedding like that would be a total mess. He didn't run it by me, and he refused to respond to the staff's confirmation, so Eric must have known that. That's why he's being so timid and awkward now. "So you were trying to do the cake cutting with Victoria without telling me?" How far is he going to go in making a fool out of me? As I raise my voice in anger, Eric's shoulders tremble. I told you, didn't I? She's like a little sister to me. When she makes selfish demands, I want to indulge her. Try to understand. I don't understand. I don't want to understand. I was angrier than I had ever been. Eric must realize it too. He's clearly flustered and looks around as if seeking help. But most of the venue is on my side. Everyone is looking at Eric and Victoria with accusing eyes for their outrageous behavior. Unable to bear the heavy atmosphere any longer, Victoria raised her voice while still surrounded by the staff. What's the big deal? The old hag is getting carried away. It's your second wedding, isn't it? You could at least let me do it. Instead of poorly hiding her malice as before, her naked spite and hostility assaulted me in the form of words. Wearing a dress resembling a wedding gown and acting like the star of the show, Victoria doesn't seem to understand why she's being berated. If she wants to be a bride that badly, she should use her own money and find her own partner. If she absolutely must do it with Eric, there are other ways to go about it without doing something like this. The fact that she didn't do that makes her a coward and lacking in common sense. That's enough. Whether it's the first time or the second, no one prepares a wedding for someone else's sake. The one who complained about my retort was Eric. Come on, don't be so stingy. Did he think no one would hear him because he spoke in a low voice? Apparently, not only I, but also the guests seated nearby heard him. A colleague from work frowned in displeasure and glared at Eric. That's the worst. Unbelievable. Faced with criticism brimming with disgust, Eric cowers again. It's getting pathetic. Did I ever say even once that I wanted to have a wedding of my own accord? I prepared it because you insisted on having one no matter what. So this was your goal? Then you should have just married Victoria from the start. Neither childhood friends nor cousins are too closely related to marry. If he wants to get married, he should go ahead and do it. He can do whatever he wants, whether it's the cake cutting or anything else. I had no idea why he was dragging me into this. Calm down, this is embarrassing in front of everyone. My anger swells up again. Which one of us is the embarrassing one? Apparently, I wasn't the only one who thought so. Lauren stands up from her seat among the relatives. You two are the embarrassing ones, not us. Lauren strides up to Eric and grabs his clothes. Her arms are trembling, and I can tell she's furious to the core. She's always been strong-willed and hates underhanded behavior. It's easy to imagine that she can't forgive Victoria and Eric's outrageous conduct. I supported you because you said you would cherish Mom. I'm so disappointed that you would do something like this. How dare you deceive me? I will never forgive you. Then Lauren glared at Victoria as well. How dare you make a fool of Mom to this extent? That dress, your attitude, it's all too outrageous. Excuse me? Don't get cheeky with me. Which one of us is being outrageous? Why do I have to put up with this treatment? It's because Ashley is wearing a wedding dress and getting all excited at her age, doing embarrassing things, that this is happening. Everyone around me was laughing about how embarrassing it is. I didn't strongly desire to have this wedding in the first place. But did someone think of me that way? Is it that embarrassing to wear a wedding dress for the second time after turning 40? I feel anxious wondering if people at work think of me that way too. Seeing my face on the verge of tears, Victoria looked triumphant. However, voices of criticism rise up against Victoria from a different place than Lauren. The number of times and age have nothing to do with it. It was the venue staff who had attended many wedding meetings with me. Everyone is glaring at Victoria, openly expressing their anger. That's right. I was insulted too, but that's not all. Victoria insulted the work of the wedding venue staff to an unimaginable degree. So the staff's anger was truly justified. A wedding is something you hold while being blessed. It's about accepting the celebrations from those around you, being grateful, and deepening your bonds. A wedding is where you make new vows for your future life. That's right. Another staff member spoke up as well. This wedding venue and the schedule all have important meaning. It's not just some party like you say. It's not something so trivial. You're the one who should be ashamed for thinking a wedding is just some fashion show or something. Their rebuttals were a saving grace for me. And as if emboldened by the staff's voices, one guest after another starts voicing their objections. You're being totally outrageous. Hurry up and leave. Why did Eric allow something like this? In addition to work associates, boos can be heard even from Eric's relatives. I don't want to think of him as relatives, it's embarrassing. I feel sorry for Ashley. Faced with the cold stares from the entire venue, Victoria and Eric are driven into a corner. Lauren was still angry, but she calmed down when I stroked her back. Thank you, Lauren, for getting angry for me. Mom, it's not just me. Everyone is angry about how you're being treated. Now it seemed like the whole venue had become my ally. The days of being jerked around by Victoria and Eric feel like a lie. Lauren continued speaking. This is unbelievable. I can't believe my beloved mom is being treated like this. As she spoke, her emotions seemed to rise again, and Lauren finally burst into tears. I hugged Lauren to console her, then turned to face Victoria and Eric again. Making Lauren cry is absolutely unacceptable. I need to reflect on that too. But first, I have to deal with Victoria and Eric, who are the cause of all this. I don't think I can live with you anymore. I'm getting a divorce. Just tell me where to send your belongings. Eric's voice cracks. You're joking, right? We invited people from work to the wedding and everything. That's precisely why I think they'll understand. When I glance at the venue, my boss and colleagues nod in agreement. That's right. I think that's the only option. If things have turned out this way, I'd be more surprised if Ashley said she wouldn't get a divorce. Eric is being driven into a corner. His face has turned pale, and sweat is pouring out of his entire body. The people from work are on my side, which means it could affect his standing at the company, and even his chances of promotion. He was being cornered more than meets the eye. Behind him, Victoria has an awkward expression on her face. She's acting like she has nothing to do with it, but does she think she'll get away unscathed? And Victoria, I'll have you pay for the cost of this wedding that you've ruined. Huh? Why should I have to? The staff restrains Victoria as she tries to approach me. I'm sorry for causing trouble, but I can't let Victoria off the hook. You acted like the star of the show, so that's not going to fly. And Eric, I'll be seeking compensation from you in the divorce trial as well. Why me too? Lauren, who had been crying until then, raised her head. Her tears had already stopped, and her eyes were filled with strong determination. Because you were cheating. The wedding venue has a screen set up to show memorable videos and such. On that screen, a photo of Eric and Victoria walking arm in arm was displayed. Victoria's attitude was so weird that even Mom thought it was unnatural and consulted with me about it. So I looked into it myself. Lauren was very reliable. As someone aspiring to be a lawyer, Lauren and her friends are well versed in the law, and they know better than me who to turn to in cases like this. You two have been dating for a long time, haven't you? All your friends from college knew about it. They were surprised to hear that Eric was marrying someone else. That's... Eric looked at me. His gaze seemed to be seeking help, but I avoid meeting his eyes and ignore him. No matter what kind of woman he was with or what their relationship was, I no longer felt anything. It was a lot of work to investigate, even with the cooperation of your school friends. But it was worth it. The photos displayed on the screen turn into even more decisive evidence. Photos of Victoria and Eric entering a resort hotel together. Photos of them kissing in a car. The photos shown one after another had, of course, been checked by me in advance. I've entrusted Mom's case to my mentor, a lawyer. Don't think you can run away. The other day, Lauren introduced me to a lawyer who is very skilled in divorce cases. The lawyer seemed to be highly trusted by Lauren's college professor, and when I talked to him, he seemed like a very sincere person, so I felt comfortable leaving it in his hands. I found out about the cheating after the wedding date was set, so I was planning to quietly get a divorce after things settled down. But now that it's come to this, it's just stupid to hide it. I feel like an idiot for being so considerate of our respective positions and reputations. Now that it's come to this, I decided to thoroughly humiliate them. Seeming to realize something from seeing my profile, Eric, who had been pale-faced until now, glares at Victoria with resentment. This happened because you kept doing unnecessary things. What are you going to do about it? It was an angry shout I never could have imagined from the Eric I knew. It's a face I've never seen at work or in private. This must be his true nature. Everyone in the venue is surprised by the drastic change. You're the one who started saying there was a rich woman at work, weren't you? I never said I'd cooperate. This is happening because you're an idiot. It's because you got carried away and kept saying unnecessary things. What an ugly argument. I'm so appalled I can't even speak. At this rate, it seemed like a brawl would break out, so the staff forcibly took Victoria and Eric out of the venue. Everyone, I'm so sorry things turned out this way. After that, I went around apologizing to the guests. Lauren is with me. I felt bad for making her deal with this, but it's reassuring. And all the guests offered kind words to me. The people from work expressed their concern, and Eric's guests in particular were considerate of me, apologizing over and over. I'm cutting ties with those two, and no matter what happens in the future, I have no intention of helping them. Feel free to do as you please until you're satisfied. I'm truly sorry about this. We returned the gifts to everyone, had them eat the meal, and then disbanded. Lauren hugs me as I'm left behind in the wedding venue. Maybe this is my punishment for trying to marry someone other than your dad. That's not true. Being able to break up with someone like that is probably because Dad was protecting you. While hoping that was true, I cried a little. With the fight at the wedding venue, the divorce and claim for compensation in the divorce trial proceeded very smoothly. As I declared, I demanded a settlement and the cost of the wedding from Victoria. Combined with the claim for compensation from Eric in the divorce trial and the expenses during the marriage period, I was told I could definitely get it. Eric apparently quit his job quietly as it became uncomfortable for him at the company, and moved into Victoria's house, but an argument broke out when Victoria got angry at Eric for not working and tried to kick him out. He apparently got rough with Victoria and was arrested by the police. Rumors spread about Victoria too, and she quit her job and disappeared from town. Even so, Lauren apparently can't forgive the two of them and is waiting for a chance to seize their assets. After that, I got tired of romance and spent my days happily with Lauren. Initially, I was worried about my position and rumors at the company, but fortunately, many people knew that Eric had been aggressively pursuing me and that I had reluctantly started dating him. So while people sympathized with me, no one criticized me. Mom, let's go out to eat. Sure, where do you want to go? You know, that restaurant in the neighborhood. The place Dad used to take us. I don't need to fall in love with someone new. Having memories of Lauren's dad is happiness enough. Plus, I have Lauren who cherishes me so much. Okay, let's go, Lauren. Yeah. If these peaceful days can continue, that's good enough. I'm very happy. My husband has rented out a high-end pub. We're even inviting the poor people like you. At our high school reunion, I was looked down upon by my former classmate, Jennifer, whom I hadn't seen since graduation. While it's understandable that her knowledge of me is limited to my high school days, it's incredibly rude of her to make assumptions without even listening to what I have to say. But that's just how Jennifer has always been. Too bad. Tell your husband to cancel all the deals then. What? The moment my friend informed Jennifer about my company, she let out a scream and nearly had a seizure. She was helped by those around her as she collapsed onto the sofa. It seemed to be quite a shock for her, but that's none of my concern. My name is Brian, and I'm a 30-year-old company CEO. The path that led me here has been tumultuous, and my high school self couldn't have even begun to imagine my current situation. My father had established a factory before I was born and worked as both a technician and a factory manager. It was a semiconductor business that dealt with only a limited number of companies. As major corporations were withdrawing one after another, my father continued to run the factory on a small scale for the sake of the clients who trusted him and continued to do business with him. While most of America's manufacturing industry, especially the automotive sector, relies on semiconductor supply from overseas manufacturers, many companies hold my father's factory's technical capabilities in high regard. Thanks to those connections, the factory's earnings were listed. However, although my father was a skilled technician, he lacked experience as a manager. He wasn't versatile enough to balance both the factory work and the management tasks, so my mother took charge of the management side. As an only child, I grew up observing both aspects of the business, and I still remember looking up to both my father and mother, thinking they were so cool even as a child. Our family was affluent and lacked nothing, but since neither my father nor mother was attached to possessions, we lived in an apartment, drove a compact and lightweight car, and my mother preferred fast fashion because she could wear it without worrying. Because of this, no one ever thought I was a rich kid. My classmates' parents and the adults in our local community were likely aware of my family's financial situation, as we ran the largest factory in the area. Fortunately, none of them were the type to share that information with their children, and all of my friends treated me equally without any discrimination. I was able to enjoy a peaceful and happy childhood. It wasn't until I entered high school that changes started to occur in my personal life. Influenced by my parents, I had been exposed to topics like mechanical structures and business management from a young age, which expanded my curiosity. I was eager to learn, so I enrolled in a college preparatory school. There, I met Jennifer, who was in the same class as me. My first impression of her was terrible. Right after starting school, Jennifer approached me in an overly familiar manner.
Hey, which middle school did you come from? Since you gave a speech at the entrance ceremony, does that mean you got the highest score on the entrance exam?
I had been selected as the freshman representative and gave a speech at the entrance ceremony. There was no doubt that I had done well on the entrance exam.
I'm from Sunset Heights Middle School. I don't know how I did on the entrance exam. I was just asked to give a speech, that's all. Sunset Heights Middle School? Never heard of it. Where is that town located?
Jennifer asked, then smirked condescendingly when I told her the name of the town.
A rural area with nothing but fields and factories, huh? I didn't know there was even a school there. How many students per class? Wait, do you even have more than 2 classes? She mocked. We had 25 students per class and 2 classes. It wasn't a big school, but we had a decent number of students, and it was lively and fun.
With a nasty grin.
My middle school had 35 students per class and 5 classes.
Jennifer bragged. It was information I couldn't care less about, but I figured she was the type who always wanted to one-up others in superficial and obvious ways. I decided to keep my guard up around Jennifer for a while. However, unexpectedly, after the entrance ceremony, she stopped looking down on me and instead started cozying up to me.
Brian, about the math homework. Can we compare answers?
She would constantly ask me about schoolwork, bring up trivial topics, and hover around me. As a result, by the time our first winter break rolled around, our classmates were spreading annoying rumors that we were dating. Being spotted forcibly dragged to a cafe by Jennifer after school on her birthday also fueled the weird rumors. She had begged me to help her study for an upcoming cram school test, so I reluctantly went along, but that was all it was. When we became sophomores, much to my dismay, Jennifer and I ended up in the same class again despite my hopes for a class change. She continued to cling to me as always. In our new class, everyone immediately started teasing us about being a couple.
Hey, don't be jealous just because we're close.
She didn't deny it and even seemed somewhat pleased, so I quickly refuted the idea.
Don't tease her too much, it's annoying.
When I said that, the whole class got excited again because I defended her. The more I said something, the more excited they seemed to get, so I kept silent. Every break time, Jennifer would come up to me, and I got tired of being teased by everyone around me, so as soon as class was over, I started leaving the classroom and spending time elsewhere. One day, I was a little worried about preparing for the next class, so I went back to the classroom a little early and heard Jennifer talking about me in front of everyone. Maybe she let her guard down because I hadn't returned to the classroom yet, but she was talking loudly in a boastful manner.
I have a good man named Brian. He's at the top of his class, good at sports, and has a promising future. I think he'll be a doctor in the future because he's in the science department. I'm glad I got him now.
When everyone around her heard that we were dating after all, Jennifer gave a nasty smile. I've already established the fact. And said. I had no idea what she was talking about, so I rushed into the classroom and confronted Jennifer.
What do you mean, established the fact?
I thought she would be surprised when I suddenly appeared behind her, but she didn't even look uncomfortable. Jennifer continued to sit with her legs crossed in her usual brazen manner, talking to me as if she were admonishing me.
Don't be shy, Brian. Let's make it official at this point.
When I refused, saying that we weren't in that kind of relationship, Jennifer came up to me and suddenly intertwined her arm with mine.
We did it on my birthday, didn't you?
The whole class got excited and made a fuss over her suggestive way of saying it. I clearly said to that.
It was for studying. You came crying to me to teach you before the cram school test, and I'm not so cold-hearted that I could refuse that.
When I told the truth, my classmates all fell silent at once. No, not that. On the way home, Jennifer said, putting her hand to her lips. I felt sick to my stomach. My classmates were making a big fuss and were delighted.
I don't want you to tell that kind of lie. We went home normally after studying, didn't we?
I'm sorry, we promised to keep it a secret. It's just that Brian wouldn't say anything about it. Jennifer looked up at me. I thought I had been set up. If someone said it like that, anyone who heard it would think Jennifer's story was true and that I was lying out of embarrassment.
There's not a single thing between me and Jennifer that's suspicious or intimate. If you keep making false accusations like this, I'm willing to declare here and now that our friendship is over.
I strongly appealed that it was completely unfounded, but Jennifer cried out loud. The whole class took her side, and I became the villain. I was called all sorts of bad names, like I was scum, a man who satisfies only his desires and doesn't take responsibility. I felt even more uncomfortable in the classroom than before, and I stopped talking to anyone in class. To begin with, I only had a few close friends, and when we changed classes in 10th grade, I was separated from those friends, and Jennifer was the only one I talked to much. Because of her, I couldn't make new friends, and I became isolated in class, but this was nothing new. The small amount of conversation I had before just went to zero, that's all. Jennifer was still the only one who remained outwardly devoted to me on the surface. I knew that this too was part of her strategy. My high school life changed drastically in 10th grade. The situation at home also changed completely. The supply of semiconductors could not keep up with demand, and major customers withdrew from the semiconductor business one after another, resulting in a loss of customers. Dad's factory could only produce a limited amount and could not mass produce. Even if the factory were to be expanded for mass production, there would be no one to make the products because the engineers had gone overseas. Nevertheless, Dad said he would continue the factory for the customers who would continue to do business with him. The debt that increased at this time amounted to hundreds of millions of dollars. Our family became poor all at once. The steep decline of the semiconductor business was reported in numerous news stories. Dad's company, the largest in the area, was also featured on the local news, and Dad spoke about the difficult situation in an interview. Because of this, I became the talk of the town and instantly became a famous tragic figure. As if my already gloomy high school life wasn't bad enough, dark clouds were looming over me once again. The person whose attitude changed most noticeably was Jennifer Adams. She used to cling to me all the time, but now she wouldn't even come near me. It was more convenient for me anyway, so I didn't pay much attention to it, but when she made a snide comment in passing, I realized her true intentions.
You're such a loser. I'm not interested in poor guys like you.
I didn't say anything back to her, didn't even make eye contact, and just kept reading the paperback I was holding. Unsatisfied, she continued to make more snide remarks.
I heard your family is having a hard time, so college is out of the question, huh? Are you going to get a job instead of going to college? Or maybe even drop out of high school? Sorry about that.
Taking advantage of my lack of response, Jennifer said what she wanted to say, sneered, and left. In 11th grade, classes are divided into liberal arts and science tracks. Thinking that I only had to endure a little longer before being separated from Jennifer in the liberal arts track, I put up with the humiliation. In 11th grade, classes were divided by career path, and I was finally able to get away from Jennifer. The last year of high school was very peaceful, and although I was struggling financially due to family circumstances, thanks to the education insurance policy my mom had taken out, I was able to attend school until graduation. However, when it came to going to college, it was a different story. I considered attending college with a scholarship, but I decided to give up on higher education because I wanted to help my dad with the family business as soon as possible. Somehow getting wind of this information, Jennifer approached me again when we happened to run into each other during lunch.
I heard you gave up on college? What a waste, considering your good grades. College isn't everything. Taking over the family business is my dream. I'm just doing it a little sooner, that's all.
When I said that, Jennifer gave me another disgusting smile and loudly mocked me.
You're taking over a company that's about to go bankrupt? Are you out of your mind? You'll be unemployed as soon as you start working. I want to help out as soon as possible so it doesn't go bankrupt.
Unusually for me, I snapped back in irritation. I don't mind if she puts me down, but there's no reason to disparage my dad's factory too. Jennifer said what she wanted to say and walked away. Not knowing what to do with my clenched fist, I punched the wall with it. The solid concrete wall in the hallway only made a dull sound, and the pain just bounced back. That was the last memory I had of being involved with her. Since then, up until now, 12 years after graduating from high school, I haven't seen Jennifer, and her existence has completely vanished from my memory. After graduating from high school, I took over my dad's factory, went through busy days, unexpected opportunities, and various experiences, and at the age of 30, I am forging ahead as a business owner. At that time, a single text message brought back my unpleasant memories. It was an invitation to a high school reunion. Apparently, they rented a large venue and were holding it for the entire grade level. I was going to reply that I wouldn't attend, but I also have some fun memories from my last year of high school. I have good friends there, and I don't need to sacrifice reuniting with them for someone like Jennifer. I decided to attend the reunion. The reunion venue was one of the large halls that is also used for wedding receptions, and it was rented out exclusively for us. To have a party of this scale, I thought the fee per person would be at least $300, but it was only $80. Maybe someone had connections. From the looks of it, the attendance rate was about 80%. I drank while looking at the familiar faces. A friend I was close with noticed me and came running over. We chatted and had a good time for a while, and during that time I didn't see Jennifer at all, which was a relief. But that relief was short-lived, and a dizzying turn of events occurred as the reunion began. Apparently, Jennifer was the one who planned this reunion, and she appeared as the MC. I had the impression that she always liked conspicuous activities, but I never thought we would be reunited in this way. I suddenly felt like going home. But the party was buffet style. I just had to avoid her at every turn and get through it. I kept an eye on her movements and focused on enjoying the party without getting any closer to her. However, when I went to get a drink during a break in the conversation, I had the misfortune of running into Jennifer. I thought she was out of sight for a while, but it seems she had been following me from behind.
Long time no see.
Jennifer spoke to me without even giving me a chance to greet her.
You've been following me with your eyes the whole time, you pervert.
Being told that, I remembered. Jennifer is a woman with an inflated ego.
I figured you wouldn't want to talk to me, so I was looking at you to avoid you. Huh? Don't flatter yourself. I had completely forgotten about you. You're just a nobody, but you were giving me perverted looks, so I got uncomfortable and protested.
Seeing Jennifer use polite language that doesn't suit her, her true nature is still visible and it makes me feel sick. I decided to leave the scene without engaging with her. I know all too well that conversing with her is a waste of time.
Hey, wait a minute. Hitting on me, a married woman, with those lecherous eyes. Married? You got married, congratulations.
When I said that, Jennifer suddenly became cheerful and started bragging. Jennifer's husband is the CEO of an electronics manufacturer, and they've become wealthy. I had heard of her husband's company name before, but it was a pointless boast, so once again,
congratulations,
I said and turned my back, but then, you're still working at that factory, aren't you? Your poverty is seeping out. No woman would want to marry a poor guy like you.
Are you worried about me? Thank you. Please continue to think of me as invisible.
As I said that and tried to leave, she grabbed my arm tightly. With my arm in her grasp, Jennifer told the venue staff to bring her a microphone and suddenly started announcing the after party.
Thank you everyone for coming today. We have an after-party prepared, so I'll give you the details now. The eyes of the venue all at once focused on Jennifer and me, whose arm she was grabbing. I heard whispers speculating about the two of us. My husband has rented out a high-end pub. We're even inviting the poor people like you. Still holding the microphone, Jennifer hurled verbal abuse at me with a condescending look on her face. The people around us were getting even more restless. I finally decided to get my revenge. Too bad. Tell your husband to cancel all the business deals. What? Jennifer looked at me with a surprised face. What do you mean? There's no way our company would do business with a small-town factory like yours. Be careful about making statements that would embarrass Jennifer's husband. Even though it's been 12 years, Jennifer hasn't changed at all and is still unpleasantly meddling with me. As I thought about finally getting back at her, my tone became more and more scathing. More importantly, what was that about a business deal earlier? You should have backed off while I was still playing dumb. Also, you shouldn't carelessly mention your husband's company name. Jennifer listened to me with a distorted expression on her face, looking like she wanted to say something. Jennifer's husband's company is an electronics manufacturer, right? I know them well since their performance is good. Their sales rep was very passionate, and we already have regular clients, so we weren't planning on increasing our business partners, but I gave in to his enthusiasm and decided to provide some of our products, albeit a very small amount. Why would you buy anything from an old small-town factory? Our company is rapidly overtaking existing manufacturers with high-quality products and achieving sales results. One of my friends who had been listening to our conversation quietly spoke to Jennifer. At that moment, Jennifer let out a scream and started shouting. Lies! Lies! Double exclamation mark! Absolutely lies! Double exclamation mark! No way! Double exclamation mark! This poor man, the CEO of that famous company. As Jennifer seemed to be about to have a fit, the people around her supported her and sat her down on a nearby sofa. It's true. The predecessor of my current company was my dad's company. We mainly operated a semiconductor business at the factory, but at one point, due to trade friction, customers withdrew from the semiconductor business and we were on the verge of bankruptcy. But as we continued to believe, an opportunity arrived. We brought in new technology from overseas, and when we developed that market, demand surged, we paid off our debts, and management stabilized. As we collaborated with peer companies, we merged and became the current company. Jennifer had a dissatisfied look on her face, seeming to be hung up on how someone like me could become the CEO of that company. So much has happened in these 12 years that it's not a story I can easily explain. The venue staff called out to us, and the reunion ended with an ominous atmosphere. With Jennifer, the key person, dejected, she received a call from the after-party venue. Since they couldn't cancel the reservation for the bar that Jennifer's husband had rented out with his connections, the participants headed to that high-class bar. The high-class bar that Jennifer's husband had reserved for us was located on the top floor of the current venue, so we just had to take the elevator as guided by the staff. Jennifer's plan was to smugly guide everyone through the building and boast endlessly while going up the elevator, but upon unexpectedly learning my true identity, she was sulking while leaning on her friends. While riding the elevator, Jennifer's face turned pale as she searched on her smartphone to see if what I was saying was true. It was because she had confirmed it was a fact. I still can't accept it. What kind of connections did you use to climb to the top, you uneducated low-income scum? Jennifer glared at me while gnashing her teeth in frustration. Let me tell you, after graduating high school, I was working at my dad's factory, but my dad's apprentice advised me to learn technology abroad. At that time, I had a dinner with the CEO of a client company who had been fond of me since I was little, and when I told him I wanted to study abroad, I was able to go to Taiwan through his introduction. I attended a local university there while also learning skills through an internship at a factory. I returned to the US at 25 and started a new business based on the technology one brought back. Even after returning, I continued working as an engineer at my dad's factory while also advancing new business development. The new business was still a rare endeavor in the country, so various people came to tour it. CEOs of large corporations and general trading companies,
university professors and others visited the factory and showed high interest in my new business, even making generous offers to collaborate. Taking advantage of those offers and utilizing the communication skills I had cultivated while studying abroad, I was also able to learn at various companies myself. All of this was thanks to my dad, who had built up trust by continuing the business without compromising quality even during difficult times. As this went on, my dad and mom told me to take over as CEO, and I became CEO at the age of 28. After that, I had discussions with the CEOs of the companies I had been jointly developing businesses with, aiming to streamline operations, reduce costs, and increase profits, and we achieved a holding company structure. It was the wish of the CEOs to entrust the company to a young person who would lead the future rather than themselves as they grew older, and so I became the CEO. The more she heard the story, the more miserable Jennifer's expression became. As we talked, we arrived at the high-class bar venue for the after-party. It was the best location with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the night view. As if she didn't want to hear any more of my boasting, Jennifer immediately distanced herself from me upon entering the bar. Perhaps realizing she couldn't look down on me anymore, she now started bragging to our classmates.
Everyone, thanks to the connections of my husband, who is the CEO of a famous manufacturer, we were able to rent out this place that normally requires reservations at least a year in advance for my reunion. And it's my husband's treat, so drink as much as you like. Cheers!
As soon as she finished her opening remarks, Jennifer started opening wine bottles with incredible vigor. Her friends around her tried to stop her out of concern, but Jennifer wouldn't stop.
This is a rare opportunity to have high-class wine. You can't buy it in stores, and you can't drink it at any old restaurant.
Since Jennifer stopped pestering me, I decided to enjoy myself. No matter how many times I come, the view is great. I know this place is atmospheric and beautiful even on rainy days. Because when this building was being designed, I was the first to secure a contract for the top floor and create this bar. To be precise, when the construction plan for this building came out, the construction company approached me about contracting several floors. Having a well-known company would help brand the building. So I chose the top floor and asked them to create a high-class bar. As our overseas business grew, I wanted to have a top-tier establishment that could be used for entertaining clients at any time. I never thought I would end up coming here through an introduction from Jennifer's husband, but it was none other than me who gave priority usage rights to our business partners as well. It's only natural for a company that does business with us.
You should drink some high-class alcohol while you have the chance too. Even if you're a CEO, you grew up poor and have probably never been to a place like this. And it's my husband's treat, after all.
Perhaps emboldened by the alcohol, Jennifer's timid attitude from just a moment ago had completely vanished, and she was back to being her usual arrogant self.
No, you keep saying it's a treat, but did you know? This bar is actually owned by my company. As a perk for our business partners, we provide it for free up to 10 times a year depending on the transaction amount. I think Jennifer's husband's company gets it once a year. That's what they use this time.
Jennifer's face turned bright red as she glared at me.
Are you trying to one-up me again by making things up? There's no way a company would be provided this 10 times. My husband's company has annual sales of $300 million. If I said my annual sales are $80 billion, would that be one-upping too? I don't see any value in such ridiculous posturing. If you can't believe I'm the owner of this bar, I'll give you some special wine that's not on the menu.
Saying that, I called over Jason, the bar manager.
Long time no see, sir. I heard your school friend is organizing today's event. If it's not too much trouble, we just got some good fish in, so would it be alright to serve carpaccio to everyone?
That sounds great. Could you please do that? And that wine would be good too. Jason bowed and said,
Understood.
He then headed to the wine cellar in the back. Jennifer was gaping at Jason's retreating figure with a stupid look on her face.
Do you believe me now?
Jennifer was crushed, tears of frustration welling up in her eyes. At Jason's cue, the bartenders started lining up the carpaccio on the tables.
As these are the CEO's schoolmates, we have prepared this rare and luxurious fish carpaccio for you. We hope you all enjoy it.
All the attention suddenly focused on me. Jennifer had been bragging to everyone that it was her connections, but ironically, the root of those connections was me. Within a few minutes, Jason brought over the special wine.
This is a rare 1971 red wine.
1971 was a great year for red wines. Since it's 50 years old, I think it will have quite a rich flavor, but I'm looking forward to trying it for the first time too. It was a wine I had been saving for a special occasion, but I still have a stock of rare wines, so I decided to bring it out. It may seem like I'm doing this to spite Jennifer, but if I have to put up with her nonsense any longer, I need to thoroughly crush her fighting spirit or I'll end up accumulating unnecessary stress.
What a spiteful guy. What's so special about this slightly expensive wine? I once paid $30,000 in cash at a high-class bar. I think calling this wine slightly expensive is too much of an understatement. First of all, you can't even get many bottles, and one bottle costs $40,000. More importantly, what high-class bar are you talking about?
Jennifer's face suddenly turned pale as if she had sobered up in an instant, but after thinking for a while, she gave a defiant smile.
My husband is a very tolerant man. He tells me to surround myself with men so that I can stay beautiful forever. That's why I just play at bars with lots of men. But you're right, since I have the chance, I want you, the CEO of a big company, to service me.
Jennifer suddenly sat me down next to her, took off her shoes, and put both feet on my thighs. Moreover, she started dripping red wine on her own feet. It also spilled onto my suit pants.
Lick it!
I let out a deep sigh of utter exasperation. I wanted to forcefully push her away, but I couldn't be rough with her, so I put Jennifer's feet back on the floor and threw my handkerchief at her.
You don't need to return it. As I said at the first party, the deal with your husband is off.
As I tried to leave, Jennifer clung to me. No. Please. Anything but that. And started crying.
Unfortunately, a man's work can change based on his wife's words and actions. If a wife like you is by his side, it could have a negative impact on her husband's work. If you're talking down to him at home too, your husband must be mentally cornered and it's probably affecting his work.
Jennifer's husband's company had momentum, but recently, new business development had stagnated and it was on a downward trend. My company also has a SIM card manufacturing business similar to Jennifer's husband's company, but we have been gradually downsizing it in accordance with the times, and now we are focusing on developing embedded SIMs. By not having cards or chips, manufacturing costs, distribution costs, and the cost of installing physical SIMs can be greatly reduced. Because of this, as long as Jennifer's husband's company maintained the status quo, I had long thought about ending our business relationship soon.
Hey, please keep this a secret from my husband. We'll be in trouble if you don't keep doing business with us as before. The money.
As soon as she mentioned money, Jennifer suddenly became tongue-tied.
Jennifer, enough already. You're causing too much trouble for Brian. You've been going too far since high school.
Suddenly, Jennifer's friend Susan spoke up.
When I said I liked Brian, you suddenly started getting close to him, right? But as soon as his family fell on hard times, you quickly changed your attitude and said, if you're okay with my second hand, go ahead. He's just an old rag now. You're a really nasty woman.
Even though it was in the past, I felt a little fluttery upon hearing her confession. However, what Jennifer said to Susan was awful. After that, one classmate after another continued to criticize Jennifer.
You ungrateful lot. Who do you think got you the discounted price for the first party and the reservation for this place?
And then, a shocking truth was revealed here.
You're in the middle of a divorce trial with your husband right now, aren't you? Is your husband properly providing money? Don't come asking for it later, okay?
According to what we heard, Jennifer had spent a large sum of money on playing around with men, and despite incurring her husband's anger, she showed no improvement, so he filed for divorce and they were in the middle of a trial. She was trying to hold on to her husband's status and wealth at all costs, so in order to make him think she had reformed during the trial period, she needed money to return at least some of what she had squandered. So, she planned the reunion to find people who might shower her with gifts. Both my classmates and I felt quite disgusted as we listened to the story.
How dare you so easily talk about my situation?
Jennifer tried to scratch Susan's face with her long nails, and I intervened to stop her. Since Jennifer had rushed at me with force, I simply used my body as a shield, but Jennifer fell over from the recoil. At that moment, business cards scattered from Jennifer's bag. They were all the business cards of the men she had been playing with. The place fell silent, and Jennifer, her hair and clothes disheveled, collapsed on the floor crying and wailing. "Everyone, please continue enjoying the drinks and food. Jason, please take care of everyone." Jason responded swiftly, and as I tended to Jennifer, I urged her to have her husband come pick her up. After settling the shortfall in the cost of the first party, Jennifer's husband showed up to pick up Jennifer. As soon as he saw me, he apologized with a pale face, so I told him to raise his head and said we would discuss future matters another day. I saw off Jennifer's husband as he took Jennifer with him. In the end, the deal with Jennifer's husband's company was cancelled. I received a sincere apology, but even before the issue with Jennifer, I felt that the business prospects were rapidly declining, so I politely declined. As for Jennifer, apparently her divorce was finalized within a month of the reunion. Her husband had noticed her continuing to play around with men and maxing out multiple credit cards, so he finally gave up on her. Jennifer's husband didn't cover her debts and kicked her out of the house, and when Jennifer's parents learned the reason for the divorce, they were furious and disowned her. Jennifer accumulated even more debt due to her financial struggles. I heard she even turned to illegal lenders, and the debt collectors were relentless, with the sound of them pounding on her door echoing through her cheap apartment every day, causing trouble for the neighbors and getting her evicted from the apartment as well. Afterward, I heard from a classmate that she was barely getting by living at her workplace while doing night work. My new business development was progressing smoothly, and I secured large contracts, so management was going well. In the midst of being consumed by busy days, there was something I suddenly remembered. It was Susan's past affection for me that she had talked about. I never imagined that someone had feelings for me in that high school classroom where I walked with my head down. 6 months after the reunion, I visited that high-class bar alone for the first time and, feeling like I was experiencing my first love, I kept that confession close to my heart and ordered a special wine.
Jason, please bring out a rare red wine from the early 2000s.
As I imagined her sweet feelings of love, I felt my heart grow warm and savored the aroma of the wine from that time.
May I have a seat?
A woman wearing a high-quality dress in a brighter color than at the reunion, stimulating my heart. Apparently, she had asked Jason to make a reservation for her on the day I would come. This reunion would continue far into the future.
"I'm pregnant, so give me $3,000.
Laughing mockingly, Sierra extended her hand. I instinctively brushed it away.
"There's no way I'm giving you that. And why does it have to be such a high amount?"
To my question, Sierra sneered. "Cute kids cost money. You wouldn't understand."
"That kid's surely going to be cute like Sierra. Unlike someone, she's probably going to be a beauty."
Sierra and Rodney burst into laughter. I felt like my anger was about to explode. I just couldn't bear it anymore. Unintentionally, the words I'd been holding back slipped out.
Actually, about that kid."
As soon as they heard my words, Sierra turned pale, and Rodney looked shocked. Things went a bit differently than planned, but you could say it's a smooth start. But the real revenge starts now. They'll have to pay for what they did to Sis. Let them cry all night after losing everything. Well, that still wouldn't be enough for me. They might as well enjoy themselves for now. Because those smiles will soon fade away. Smiling to myself, I distanced myself from the quarreling Sierra and Rodney. My name is Hannah. I'm 33 and I work in a design office. Talking like this might give off a stylish, urban impression. But the reason I chose this path isn't so simple. To be honest, this was the only choice I had. That's the right way to put it. Actually, I have an older sister named Daisy. Daisy is 2 years older than me and could do anything. Compared to Daisy, who excels in both studies and sports, all I could do was draw. Illustration was the only thing I didn't lose against Sis. That was my only solace. But, don't get me wrong, it's not like I had a bad relationship with Daisy or my parents. My parents loved me equally, And Daisy and I still keep in touch frequently. That's why, when Daisy got divorced 4 years ago, I couldn't hide my shock. Moreover, the reason was Rodney's affair, and the other woman was my best friend, Sierra. Sis. I'm sorry. I'll cut ties with Sierra. The day I declared that to Daisy still haunts my dreams. I'll never forgive Sierra. That's how I still feel inside. By the way, I met Sierra when we were in elementary school. We were the same age and became classmates for the first time in the upper grades. Of course, being in the same grade, we knew each other's names and faces. But we never really had any contact. And that's why we never talked before. I'm Sierra. Nice to meet you. Sierra had a very refined appearance. Her voice was cute, and every gesture was adorable. Being approached by such a cute classmate, I became nervous. What's wrong? Well, it's just that you're so much cuter than me.
Me? Really?
Sierra asked, looking back at me. I nodded slightly. In that moment, Sierra hugged me and whispered in my ear with a smile.
I think you're cute too. Be confident.
Really? Yeah. Let's become best friends. And that's how we became best friends. Since then, Sierra was always by my side. When I was talked about behind my back at school, it was Sierra who defended me first. There are kids saying bad things about Hannah, but let's not do that. Sierra said confidently in front of our classmates. As expected, the classmates fell silent. The reason I was talked about, in fact, was because of Daisy's presence being known. Initially, many friends would say things like this to me. It's so cool to have a sis who's good at studying. Being the starting player, that's awesome. I was happy when Daisy was praised. It didn't bother me. But, those words of praise for Daisy turned into backhanded comments about me. Her sister is terrible at both studies and sports. Being good at drawing, isn't that kind of lame? Of course, no one would say it to my face. They talked in whispers, hidden in the corners of the classroom. But, of course, I could hear them. However, it was the truth, so I couldn't deny it. It was frustrating, but it was the truth. All I could do was bear it. But, maybe sensing how I felt, Sierra spoke up for me. Moreover, perhaps to prevent the issue from lingering, Sierra didn't single out the culprits. That approach worked well, and the people who talked about me disappeared. Thank you, Sierra. We're best friends. Of course I got your back. Our bond grew even stronger. However, I learned the truth about that incident a year ago. It was during a reunion after a long time. A friend told me this story. The bad mouthing about me was instigated by Sierra. She defended me to gain my trust. Hearing that, I felt like my heart was about to burst with regret. If I had seen through the lie at that time, maybe sis wouldn't have divorced. Since learning that fact a year ago, I've found it even harder to forgive Sierra. Let me say this again, I only found out about this fact a year ago. So until the moment I heard about Daisy's divorce, I always thought of Sierra as my best friend. Even as we grew older, I believed Sierra was my best friend. That's why I accepted everything Sierra said without any doubt. You have a talent for illustration. You should definitely pursue that path. Really? Do you think so?
Go for it.
Sierra encouraged me. Thinking so, I enrolled in a design-focused university. Looking back, it might seem laughable. But back then, I believed Sierra's advice. However, there was one good thing. It was that I truly had a talent for illustration. After enrolling in university, my design talent blossomed, and I landed a job at a design office with top grades. On the other hand, Sierra joined a modeling agency after graduating high school. But she didn't make any spectacular achievements. She appeared in fashion magazines. But only a few times. That marked the end of Sierra's modeling career. Nonetheless, it's undeniable that Sierra was beautiful. As if leveraging her good looks, Sierra switched careers to a major apparel manufacturer. Then she started working as a salesperson at a clothing store the company operated. Being a former model, she indeed boosted the store's sales significantly. Thus, Sierra became a popular salesperson. Hearing the rumors, I visited Sierra.
Sierra, you seem to have become quite popular. Hannah! You came to see me!
Sierra rushed over. Being mindful of the surroundings, I nodded slightly.
By the way, how's your job, Hannah? Web design and stuff, pretty challenging, but I guess it's fulfilling. I see. Then I'll have to work hard too.
I thought she'd be down after quitting modeling, but she seemed just fine. As I was thinking, Sierra leaned in and asked,
"So, what are you here to buy today? If it's a new collection, I can help out and choose for you."
No. It's not that. I'm actually looking for a present for Sis.
2 years older, right? Is it her birthday or something?
Sierra smiled. I replied a bit shyly.
Actually, Sis, she's getting married. Marriage? Congratulations!
Thank you, but I'm not the one getting married. Right. Sorry. We laughed together. Then I talked about Daisy's marriage. Daisy, who had just turned 28 a few days ago, went out for a meal with her partner Rodney. There, Rodney proposed to Daisy. Of course, Daisy accepted. Having heard the story the day before, I decided to celebrate Daisy's marriage. And after much deliberation, I finally decided to gift Daisy clothes. Considering the upcoming wedding preparations and meetings, Daisy would have more occasions to go out.
So, I was wondering if there's any nice outfit.
I see.
Let me choose for you. Do you have a photo or something of Daisy?
Show me. Sierra extended her hand. I sent a photo of Daisy, stored on my mobile phone, to Sierra. It was a picture Daisy had sent me. It probably had been taken during a recent date. The impressive illumination in the background was a hot topic, and it was a photo I particularly liked.
This illumination. It's really popular right now.
Yup, exactly.
We were talking about going there since everyone's buzzing about it.
I stopped mid-sentence and instinctively clamped my mouth shut. But it seemed too late. Sierra was looking at me with a laugh. Then, putting her hand to her mouth, she asked me,
"I heard we were talking about going there. Do you have a boyfriend by any chance?"
Well. My ears turned red with embarrassment. Having a boyfriend was a first for me. Sierra, who had been with me since elementary school, knew that. Of course, Sierra seemed happy for me. But all of it was just an act. When Daisy got divorced, and I confronted Sierra, she confessed. Moreover, the photo I sent at that time turned out to be the catalyst for Sierra and Rodney's affair. And on top of that, Sierra had already known for a few days that I had a boyfriend. Apparently, Sierra had witnessed me and my boyfriend Denny on a date a few days before. She was plotting to steal Denny from me. This too was a confession from Sierra. In short, if I hadn't brought up Daisy's marriage, Sierra would have tried to take my boyfriend away. Because I showed Rodney's photo to Sierra, Sis ended up divorcing. It goes without saying how much I regretted it, even though it was done unknowingly. Nonetheless, oblivious to everything, I presented the clothes chosen by Sierra to Daisy. Daisy was really pleased and even prepared for her wedding wearing that outfit. Looking back now, I believe that was probably the happiest time for Daisy. After a while, Daisy got married, but she gradually became gloomier. Since we both lived alone, we used to contact each other frequently. However, shortly after the marriage, Daisy started to contact me less often.
Maybe she's enjoying her married life?
I thought lightly. Then, unusually, Daisy called me. Rodney might be having an affair. Daisy's voice was terribly somber. I tried to comfort her desperately.
What do you mean? Are you sure it's not a misunderstanding?
I don't think it's a misunderstanding. He's been coming home late, and he's not even home on his days off, Daisy said and finally broke down in tears. In my eyes, Daisy always seemed like a strong person. But that Daisy was crying now. It made it clear to me that she was not okay.
Calm down, sis.
Let's get to the bottom of this first. I proceeded with an investigation into Rodney's conduct. If they could reconcile, that would be best. That's what I thought, but it backfired. The investigation I initiated led Daisy to discover Rodney and Sierra's affair. Hearing that fact, Daisy and I confronted Sierra together.
Sierra, what is this all about?
What?
There's nothing to it. Rodney and I are dating. That's all. But he's Sis's husband. Doesn't that make it an affair?
I confronted Sierra with a strong tone. But Sierra seemed unfazed.
An affair, sure, but what's the problem?
He prefers a beautiful woman, obviously. Sierra glanced at Daisy. Daisy quickly looked down. Indeed, Sierra was more beautiful than Daisy and I. But if you consider what's inside, Sierra is overwhelmingly inferior. At any rate, Sierra, who could cheat without remorse, was much uglier than Daisy. The argument with Sierra escalated, but she remained defiant throughout. Realizing we were getting nowhere, I decided to confront Rodney next. Rodney, too, was just as defiant.
Of course, I prefer beautiful women. When I'm seen with them, everyone envies me.
Rodney, do you really mean that?
Yeah, I mean it. I prefer beautiful women.
But I couldn't bring myself to ask why he married Daisy in the first place.
It's fine. I'll be reporting the affair to both of your companies. What? If you do that, we might lose our jobs. You should have thought of that before you did it.
I said it loudly. Sierra seemed a bit shaken, but Rodney remained nonchalant.
Hannah, you're so naive. An affair won't cost us our jobs. What? Unless it's a crime, an affair is a personal matter. It's a marital issue, so the company won't get involved.
It's true the company might think it's unsightly. But an affair isn't grounds for disciplinary action. I later found out that unless there are specific internal regulations, generally, affairs don't lead to disciplinary action. Sierra laughed triumphantly. And Rodney smirked disgustingly.
Well, that's the situation. The only thing you can do is break up with me,
Rodney said to Daisy. Daisy looked down, seemingly frustrated.
What are you so proud of? That's...
Before I could finish my sentence, Daisy grabbed my arm. In a voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz, Daisy said,
It's okay, Hannah. If I can get away from Rodney, that's enough.
In the end, Daisy got a settlement from Rodney through the divorce and left him. After that, Rodney apparently started dating Sierra. But I didn't care. I couldn't forgive Rodney nor Sierra. In place of Daisy, I vowed to seek revenge on the two of them. That was the only thing I was determined about. For years had passed since then. I never forgot about them for a moment.
The stage is set, now, brace yourselves.
On a certain holiday, I made up my mind and headed to a boutique in a bustling district. As I entered the store, I heard a female salesperson's voice. But I ignored it and approached two customers.
It's been a while.
Sierra. When I spoke, the woman turned around.
What? Hannah.
The surprised shopper was Sierra. Rodney next to her also turned around.
Oh, it's Hannah. You haven't changed much, or should I say, still unpolished.
I was irritated, but getting angry here would ruin the plan. I kept my cool and continued.
Both of you seem well. Sierra, have you gained a bit of weight? What? No way. I'm pregnant,
Sierra retorted. This reaction was as expected. This is where the Real challenge begins. I braced myself to continue, but before I could speak, Sierra said this.
I'm pregnant, so give me $3,000.
Laughing, Sierra extended her hand. I instinctively brushed it away.
There's no way I'm giving you that. And why does it have to be such a high amount?
To my question, Sierra sneered.
Cute kids cost money. You wouldn't understand. That kid's surely going to be cute like Sierra. Unlike someone, she's probably going to be a beauty.
Sierra and Rodney burst into laughter. I felt like my anger was about to explode. I just couldn't bear it anymore. Unintentionally, the words I'd been holding back slipped out.
Actually, about that kid.
As soon as they heard my words, Sierra turned pale, and Rodney looked shocked. Things went a bit differently than planned, but you could say it's a smooth start. But the real revenge starts now. They'll have to pay for what they did to Sis. Let them cry all night after losing everything. Well, that still wouldn't be enough for me. They might as well enjoy themselves for now. Because those smiles will soon fade away. Smiling to myself, I distanced myself from the quarreling Sierra and Rodney. Then Sierra noticed me distancing myself. Pointing at me, Sierra raised her voice.
Why would you say such a thing to Rodney? That child isn't Rodney's child. What's that about?
Oh? But isn't it true?
It's definitely Rodney's child. We got married after all that.
Her loud shout drew the gaze of everyone in the store toward us. I glanced around a bit before stoking the fire further.
Is that so? Then that child's father is one of your affairs, right? But...
As Sierra tried to retort loudly, Rodney cut in.
Stop slandering! This child is mine. Are you going to ignore the fact that your wife is cheating, Rodney?
When I questioned Rodney, his face turned bright red.
Don't lie without any evidence. You're just trying to stir up trouble. That's right. Stop messing around.
Sierra also retorted with a flushed face. It's about time, I thought, looking around.
Well, causing a scene in the store is troublesome, so let's leave it at that. What? You started this. You know what? I'll sue you for defamation.
Rodney laughed.
That's a great idea. We could probably get about $10,000 out of it.
Even Sierra agreed with Rodney's suggestion. I sighed and responded.
Suit yourselves. But what if I actually have the evidence? What? Do you really have evidence of Sierra's affair?
Well, who knows?
I'll tell you the answer when we meet next.
Bye for now. With that, I quickly left the store. Behind me, I could hear Rodney's shouting voice.
Hey! Wait! We're not done talking.
I pretended not to hear and quickly moved away from the store. A few hours later, I was at home while changing clothes. My phone rang unexpectedly.
I knew you'd call me.
I answered the phone with a small laugh. Immediately, Rodney's voice rushed in, speaking rapidly.
Hey! About Sierra's affair, is it true? Answer me.
He reacted just as I had anticipated. I couldn't help feeling pleased. Doesn't he realize it's a trap? I sighed softly and responded.
The child in her belly might be yours, but there's also a good chance it belongs to her lover. So, the affair is real?
You're free to think that. I answered provocatively. After a brief silence, Rodney spoke in a low voice.
You have evidence, don't you? If you want, I might even give it to you.
I had directly accused Sierra of having an affair. Meaning, Sierra would now be on guard, making it impossible to gather further evidence of her cheating. So the evidence I might possess becomes Rodney's only hope. He's thinking exactly as I planned. Considering this, Rodney responded.
What should I do? What are your terms? Money?
Of course not.
I just want revenge.
If you leave Sierra, that's enough for me. Needless to say, that was a lie. I have no intention of forgiving Sierra, nor Rodney. But for now, I'll pretend to cooperate with Rodney. Only for the sake of what's to come.
Understood. So I just need to leave Sierra, right? It's simple, isn't it? If you get evidence of Sierra's affair, you'll gain freedom and a settlement from the divorce trial. Yeah. Let's meet and talk somewhere. Then, how about this coming Sunday?
I suggested a restaurant in the entertainment district. It has private rooms, suitable for confidential conversations. After specifying the place, I hung up the phone. Immediately after, Sierra called.
What's the meaning of this, Hannah? Why didn't you answer my call?
I'm busy too. I can't be at your beck and call. Don't act so high and mighty.
I could hear Sierra grinding her teeth. I almost laughed.
So, what are you going to do about it? Because of you, Rodney and I are fighting.
That's not my problem. It's your fault, isn't it? Sierra is to blame for the affair. That's what I meant to say. But Sierra didn't care about that. She retorted sharply.
When are you going to take responsibility? Or maybe I should really sue you. Is that something a friend would say? Too bad, we're not friends. You said so yourself.
Sierra raised her voice in anger. I distanced the phone slightly. And then responded with a sneer.
Oh right, that's what I said. You're really infuriating. I should have made you cry more when we were in elementary school.
Sierra was breathing heavily. I thought, this is it, and played my trump card.
Oh? In that case, maybe I should just throw this away? The evidence of Rodney's affair. What? Rodney's affair?
Sierra's tone changed. Smirking at her reaction, I continued.
I couldn't find evidence of your affair, but I did get evidence of Rodney's. What do you mean?
Today's incident was a ploy to anger Sierra and make her call me. The real target is Rodney, who betrayed Daisy. I'll give Sierra the evidence of Rodney's affair. So, she can squeeze every penny out of Rodney through the divorce settlement. I made the whole thing up. But Sierra believed it.
All right, send me the evidence then. You want to meet and talk, right? How about this Sunday afternoon at a cafe? Fine. Bring me the evidence then. I'll make sure Rodney pays.
After hearing Sierra say that, I hung up the phone with a sneer. Then, the next Sunday. As the time to meet Sierra approached, I left the house.
The car's ready. Let's go.
Denny, who had left the house earlier, opened the car door. I got in with a smile. After getting out of the car, I headed alone to the cafe where we agreed to meet. Sierra was already there when I entered.
Sorry for being late.
That's fine.
Just show me the evidence already.
Sierra extended her hand. I looked towards the entrance. Seeing the person there, I smiled and said to Sierra,
Before that, a friend is here. Do you mind if he joins us? Is it your boyfriend? Denny, right? Close one. We're married now, so Denny is my husband.
Saying that, I gestured towards the entrance. Sierra also looked over, laughing. In that moment, Sierra turned pale. At the same time, a loud voice filled the cafe.
Sierra! You're back in the States!
A man approached from the entrance. He was slightly older than us, dressed in a suit.
What? Why is Alexander here?
Well, a friend wanted to introduce me to his wife. The man referred to as Alexander turned around. And there was Denny. Denny spoke to Sierra. Nice to meet you, I'm Denny, Hannah's husband. I brought your affair partner. Hearing those words, Sierra stood up. As she tried to flee, I grabbed her hand.
What's the matter? He's your affair partner, right? Introduce him, he's the father of your child in your belly? The child in your belly?
Alexander looked at Sierra's pregnant belly. Then he burst into joy.
You're pregnant with my child. That's why you said you were going abroad.
By the way, Alexander is definitely Sierra's affair partner. Moreover, Sierra lied about going abroad. In short, she was trying to hide her pregnancy and the birth of her child. Because it would be troublesome if a man who's not her husband showed up at the hospital. But then, Alexander realized something. He slowly asked Sierra.
Didn't someone mention me as your affair partner just now? No. It's about someone else.
Sierra started making excuses while getting flustered. So, I decided to step in.
It's all a lie. Sierra is married, and you are just an affair partner. Don't be fooled. Hannah! Don't stir up unnecessary trouble.
Sierra tried to grab me, but in that moment, Alexander intervened.
Sierra, what's all this about?
Well, it's... Sierra started to say something, but Denny interrupted by showing a photo.
This is Sierra's husband. The rest is for you two to discuss. We'll be leaving now. Denny took my hand, and we left the cafe. Later, I heard the cafe turned into a battlefield. Meanwhile, Denny and I headed to a nearby restaurant. Just as we arrived, Rodney also showed up. Perfect timing, but who's that guy? He's my husband, Denny. I remember you had a fiancé. I didn't want to have a long conversation right there, as it could lead to complications. I hurriedly urged everyone to enter the restaurant. Inside, we were led to a private room in the back. But then, the waiter said something unnecessary. "Your companion is waiting inside," he said. "Is there someone else inside?" "A lawyer?" "Well, kind of." It wasn't entirely wrong. I casually answered and entered the private room. Immediately, a woman's shrill voice was heard. "I've been waiting for you, Rodney." "What? Layla?" Rodney seemed utterly shocked, nearly collapsing on the spot. Denny quickly supported Rodney. Then the woman called Layla spoke again. "Thank you for helping my fiancé." "Well, it's nothing." "By the way, who might you be?" Layla tilted her head. Her gesture was innocent as a young girl's. I felt it was cruel to make her cry, but I didn't hesitate to declare. "I'm Hannah, the sister of Rodney's ex-wife. And this is my husband, Denny." "Oh, is that so? But why would the ex-wife's sister be here?" "Because I'm the one who invited you all here." As soon as I said that, Rodney started to make a scene. "Shut up! Don't say anything unnecessary." "I won't say anything unnecessary. I'm just going to tell her that you're already married." The atmosphere froze at that moment. But I continued calmly. "After leaving my sister, Rodney remarried my best friend." "Quiet! Don't say anything more." Rodney continued to cause a commotion. Then Layla raised her voice. "Please be quiet. We're in the middle of a discussion." Overwhelmed, Rodney closed his mouth. Seeing this, I continued. "Then, hiding the fact that he was already married, he started a relationship with you." I narrated Rodney's current situation, his infidelities, and everything else. And ended with the fact that Rodney's current wife, Sierra, was pregnant. "So, you're saying I was being cheated on?" Layla asked. "Well, yes, that's how it appears." "Regardless, it's good timing. My father is also here, so we can have a thorough discussion." Layla gestured behind her. Looking back, there was a man with a fiery red face. So, that must be her father, I thought, and then Layla suddenly raised her voice. "You do know my father is a lawyer, right? Rodney, are you prepared?" Layla glared sternly at Rodney. Rodney, slightly intimidated, began to make excuses. "It's not like that. My wife Sierra has been cheating, and I was planning to divorce her." "So, you're not yet divorced?" No. I mean, that's enough. I will sue you," Layla declared, and at that moment, Layla's dad grabbed Rodney. "So you're the father? Nice to meet you." Rodney tried to smooth things over with a greeting. But it was futile. The room erupted into chaos, so Denny and I retreated outside. There, I told the staff who had rushed over due to the commotion. "There's a disturbance inside. Please call the police." With that, the staff member called the police. The police arrived promptly. Later, we were also questioned, but ultimately it was treated as a family dispute and ended with a stern warning. However, while most were let off with that, it was not the end for Rodney. The police involvement became a problem at his workplace. Of course, the cause of the disturbance was thoroughly investigated. As a result, the affair came to light. Naturally, an affair alone would not lead to dismissal. But the company took issue with the police involvement. In the end, Rodney was pressured to submit his resignation and reluctantly left the company. "It's your fault. What are you going to do about it? If you feel bad, lend me some money." If you keep bothering me, I'll call the police, okay?
After that, he never contacted me again. It seems he really learned his lesson. Later, Rodney was sued by Layla and had to pay a hefty settlement. Sierra also had troubles with Alexander. Though she avoided a lawsuit, she was still required to pay compensation. Burdened with debt, Rodney and Sierra blamed each other and decided to divorce. They're now engaged in a bitter divorce battle. I doubt either will get any money in the end. By the way, to cover the legal costs and living expenses, they're both working at a well-paying construction site. I hope this time they truly reflect on their actions. Meanwhile, I reported the whole saga to Daisy over the phone.
That must have been tough. Are you okay, Hannah?
I'm fine. So, sis, just focus on delivering a healthy baby. Actually, after her divorce, Daisy remarried a former classmate she met at a reunion. She moved far away, but we still keep in touch frequently. Daisy is due to give birth soon, and thinking about it made me want a child too.
Maybe I'm pregnant too?
I gently stroked my stomach. It felt a bit warmer than usual. Children are a nuisance, so go to a facility. Who said I have a mom? My name is Madison. I'm in the 5th grade, living with my dad and mom. Dad is really kind, and he takes me out on his days off. Mom acts normal when Dad is around, but when he's not, she seems cold and distant, making it a bit hard to talk to her.
See you.
Dad, as usual, leaves for work early in the morning. As I eat breakfast. I'll see you later, I said. Checking the clock, it's almost time for me to go to school. I need to hurry up and get dressed after eating quickly. Thanks for the meal. After finishing, I place my dishes in the sink and head to my room to change. Wait. Mom stops me, pointing to the sink. Who's going to wash these? Her eyes are cold, almost angry. Normally, I'd just change and go to school, but it felt like I'd be scolded if I did. I'll wash them, I murmured. What? I can't hear you, you're too quiet. Mom suddenly yells. My body trembles. But feeling guilty, I apologize. I'm sorry. I'll wash them. Of course. From now on, take care of your own things. Mom angrily tosses her apron on the sofa and goes to her room. Reflecting on her words, I wash the breakfast dishes and leave for school. At school, while talking with friends, the conversation turns to parents. Hearing their stories, everyone else's moms seem kind, and though they get scolded, they seem close. What's your mom like? Suddenly asked by a friend, I'm at a loss for words. But I think maybe it's my misunderstanding that mom is cold, and her bad mood is because I haven't been doing things for myself. She's very kind, I respond. Hearing this, my friend says, That's nice. But I feel conflicted inside. I'm home. When I return home, Mom isn't there. Maybe she went shopping, I think, and start my homework in my room. Before I know it, it's dark outside, and it's dinner time, but she hasn't come back yet. Then, I hear noises from the entrance and the fridge opening. Stepping out of my room, I see her in the kitchen. I am so hungry, so I go to the kitchen. Welcome back, I said to her, and she responds, I'm back. Her brief reply without looking back indicates she's still in a bad mood.
What's for dinner tonight?
I ask cheerfully. But maybe that was a mistake. When Mom turns around, her face looks scary. Huh?
I told you to do things for yourself, didn't I?
Dad will be back soon, and I'm busy cooking. Unable to say anything more to her, I start to make instant noodles when Dad comes home.
Hello.
Hearing Dad's voice, Mom quickly takes the instant noodles from my hands. Confused about what to do, Dad enters the kitchen.
Oh. Are we starting dinner now?
Seeing Dad's kind face, I almost cry. Welcome back.
Just got back from shopping. Dinner will be ready soon. Just wait a bit more.
Mom's face softens.
I can't tell if she's still angry, but the thought of eating Mom's cooking makes me happy. Later, we have dinner as a family, and I have a fun time playing games with Dad. Maybe Mom was just in a slightly bad mood. Thinking that there won't be any more scolding if I take care of myself properly, I fall asleep. From the next day, I try my best to do things by myself. I wash the breakfast dishes, fold the laundry, put it away, vacuum my room. And when Mom comes home late, I make instant noodles for myself. Thinking that this will surely make her happy, my face breaks into a smile. Mom hasn't praised me yet, but she's getting less angry. When Dad is around, the three of us have a good time together. I was happy about that. One time, I heard a groaning noise and woke up in the middle of the night. Thinking it might be a ghost, I dove under the covers. The groaning continued for a while, and as I trembled with fear, suddenly I heard an ambulance. It stopped nearby, and I realized it was right outside our house. Wondering who it was, I got out of bed and saw Dad being carried out.
Dad!
I shouted, rushing over. Dad looked pale and was sweating, obviously in a lot of pain. Tears came to my eyes, and clinging to the paramedic.
Please save Dad!
I begged. The paramedic put a hand on my head.
We're taking him to the hospital now,
he said. Then Mom and I followed the ambulance to the hospital, where Dad was taken away. We could only wait in the designated area. I was filled with anxiety, wondering what would happen if we lost Dad. But Mom, next to me, was handling her phone, not seeming worried at all. I cried alone, waiting for someone to tell me it was going to be okay. After what felt like an eternity, a doctor came over to us. Mom and the doctor spoke about something complicated, and all I understood was that Dad was ill and needed to be hospitalized. I was shocked that Dad had to fight a disease, and he couldn't come home for a while. Mom and I went home for now. After preparing for Dad's hospital stay, Mom left for the hospital again. Left alone at home, I lay in bed unable to sleep, and soon it was bright outside since it was early morning. School. I had to go to school. But I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like eating, and just stayed under the covers. Aren't you going to school? Mom noticed me at noon. She didn't scold me for missing school but seemed busy and left for the hospital right away. Having eaten nothing since morning, I went to the kitchen. I ate the leftovers from last night's dinner as my meal. In the evening, Mom came back. She brought sandwiches. Eat this today.
I also bought some instant noodles for you to eat from tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. I decided to follow her instructions, not wanting to bother her as she was busy with Dad. The next day, after having instant noodles for breakfast, I went to school. My friends asked why I was absent yesterday, and I lied, saying I felt sick. The teacher, seeming to know the situation, spoke kindly to me. When I got home, Mom wasn't there, probably at the hospital with Dad. I wanted to see Dad too. I thought I'd ask Mom to take me on the next day off. While doing my homework, the phone rang. I was the only one home, so I answered. Hello? Oh, Madison? What are you doing? It was Dad on the phone, and hearing his voice made me cry.
Dad! Are you okay now? I want to see you.
Hearing me cry, he spoke gently.
Sorry to worry you. I'm okay now. I want to see you too. I'd be happy if you could come with Mom. Yeah. I'll ask her.
Okay.
Oh, is she there?
I wondered where she was. She wasn't at home. I thought she was at Dad's hospital.
Mom isn't here. Isn't she at the hospital?
Hearing this, Dad seemed to realize something and spoke evasively.
Right. She just left a while ago. She'll be back soon. Madison, have you had something to eat?
Yeah. Mom bought some instant noodles and stuff. After I said that, he was silent for a moment, then.
Is that so?
He said, before changing the subject. After talking with him for a while, I heard the front door open, so I told him she was back. Dad asked me to hand the phone to her. And when she, who had just returned, took over the phone, she looked a bit shaken as she talked to Dad. I went back to my room, noticing the smell of cigarettes on her and wondering where she had been. The next day, Mom asked if I wanted to go to the hospital with her. I said yes, even though she seemed a bit reluctant, but she took me. Seeing Dad after a long time. He was connected to N4 but smiled when he saw me.
Madison! You came!
I hugged him. Seeing him looking well made me want to cry again, but I was so happy to see him. After talking with him for a while, Mom said it was time to go, and we left the room reluctantly. As I looked back, he was waving at me with a smile.
Come visit again,
he said. But I never thought that would be our last conversation. His condition suddenly worsened, and he passed away in no time. I couldn't believe he was gone, as Mom instructed me to wear mourning attire and took me to the funeral home. Many people came to say goodbye to him. Seeing Mom's detached demeanor made me wonder if Dad was really gone. Standing at the edge of the room, someone approached me. Hey, aren't you Madison? I turned around to see a woman standing behind me. I was confused, not recognizing her, and she sat down next to me. It's been so long. I'm your aunt, Madison, your dad's sister. Looking at her, I saw she resembled Dad. I had no memory of an aunt, but I remembered Dad talking about his sister. Aunt. Yes, your aunt. Don't I look like your dad? She laughed, looking just like Dad. Then she suddenly hugged me. It's okay to cry. You've been strong, Madison. I must have been crying already because her words made me cry even more. It felt like the moment I realized I would never see Dad again. After a while, as my aunt soothed me, I thanked her and went to get a drink. When I entered the room, Mom was there. Seeing my tear-streaked face, she said coldly, "What? You cried? What an embarrassing face." Her words hurt. Mom, aren't you sad? I couldn't help asking her, seeing she wasn't grieving. There's no point in being sad. He's gone. I trembled at Mom's cold words. I wondered if she hated Dad, despite all the happy times we had as a family. As I stood frozen, my aunt came over. "Oh, long time no see," she said with a smile, and Mom's expression changed. "Oh, it's been a while. Anything I can help with?" "No. There's nothing." "Then, Madison, let's go over there." My aunt took my hand and led me out of the room. It was clear that Mom was uncomfortable around her. Afterward, I stayed with my aunt until Dad's funeral ended. "Madison, it's time to go." A while after the funeral, Mom came to pick me up. My aunt had been holding my hand the whole time, but she let go to say goodbye. Her face looked a bit sad. "Madison, see you again." "Yeah, see you." Reluctantly leaving with Mom, an unfamiliar car pulled up. "Sorry to keep you waiting." A man, apparently Mom's acquaintance, was driving, and she opened the car door. I instinctively resisted getting into the car with a stranger. "Stop dawdling and get in." Mom's tone was unlike anything I'd heard from her before, and I reluctantly got in the car. The car drove in the opposite direction from our home, and I just watched the passing scenery outside. Feeling a bit scared in a car, not knowing where we were heading. "We're here. Get out now." As I was told to get off, there was a large building and I had no idea where I was. "Mom, where are we?" I asked, and Mom, lighting a cigarette, replied, "Kids are a nuisance, so off to the facility you go." "What?" Not understanding what I was told, a strange man and Mom drove away. I tried to chase the car for a while, but obviously couldn't catch up and gave up when I tripped. Lost and not knowing where to go, I was heading back to where I was left. Then, a car stopped beside me. The window rolled down and it was my aunt in the driver's seat. Never thought it'd come to this. "Madison, get in." Relieved to see my aunt, I quickly got into the car. She stroked my head and I cried quietly as my tension melted away. How many times are you going to cry today, poor thing? Riding in my aunt's car, we arrived at a house. It seemed to be her home. As I was told to come in. Welcome home. A man's voice greeted us. I instinctively hid behind my aunt. It's okay. Who laughed and said. I nervously looked at the man, a young guy standing and smiling at me. Sorry, got you scared, huh? I'm this lady's husband. I guess I'm your uncle, in a way. He extended his hand for a handshake. Comforted by his kind face, I shook his hand, and he smiled again. You must be hungry, right? We've got dinner ready, you need to eat a lot to grow.
Annoying, just like Mom.
Hearing their cheerful conversation, I couldn't help but smile too. Then my stomach growled, making me feel embarrassed, and they both burst into laughter. And so, I had a fun dinner time for the first time in a while. After dinner, they let me take a bath and even prepared pajamas for me. Then,
come here.
As I was invited to the living room, they had prepared hot milk for me. Hot milk? Aren't you too old for that, Madison?
Hey! Don't kids love hot milk? No?
In such a cozy atmosphere, I found myself laughing along. And they laughed with me. Then, sit down, we have something to talk about. As I sat down in front of the hot milk, they began to speak. Hey Madison, how about becoming our child? I was about to drink my milk and choked on these words. What? Sorry. It was abrupt, wasn't it? My uncle patted my back. My aunt laughed. Become our kid. You don't want to go back to that kind of mom, do you? I was deep in thought. I didn't hate Mom. But thinking about what happened at home, Dad, and being abandoned, I was honestly scared to go back to her. Actually, we've been in touch with your dad. What? I was surprised to hear Dad's name. My aunt explained in detail. The person with Mom was her affair partner, and Dad had realized Mom was cheating. He was very worried about me. Dad's illness had gotten serious, and he might not have long left. He asked them to take care of me after he's gone. Hearing this, I couldn't stop my tears and desperately wanted to see him. Your dad cared a lot about you and loved you. My aunt's warm hand stroking my head made me internally shout thank you to Dad multiple times. Dear Dad. Fun-loving Dad. I decided to become strong for Dad. I want to stay with you too. Hearing this, both my aunt and uncle were happy. Staying with them would require some paperwork and might take a while, but they said it was fine to stay together until then. I decided to help out my aunt and uncle as much as I could. Helping with breakfast and dinner, cleaning the bathroom and toilet, until they started worrying that I was doing too much. Told to play like a grade schooler, I couldn't think of anything to do, so I decided to start on my homework. Madison, were you always doing chores at home? I was asked by my aunt during dinner. When I nodded, my uncle sitting next to me hugged me. You've had it tough for a grade schooler. It's normal to help out. But I'm worried you've been pushing yourself too hard. Indeed, maybe I was trying too hard to get praise from Mom. Realizing something I hadn't been aware of before, I fell silent. All that effort, never praised. I guess she never really cared. You don't have to worry about anything here. You can help out, but what you should focus on are friends, school, and yourself. Take care of yourself. My aunt's words resonated with me. My uncle, looking like he might cry, nodded repeatedly. I felt so happy to be with them. 2 weeks after Dad's funeral, I was called to the staff room at school. Wondering what it was about, I was told that Mom had called. The teachers probably didn't know the full story. Thinking it would trouble them if I didn't answer, I picked up the phone with trembling hands. Hello.
Madison. Answer the phone quickly.
Her voice, which I hadn't heard in a long time, was a shout, just like before.
Where are you? You're not at the facility I left you at.
I couldn't find my voice and remained silent.
Are you listening? Well, never mind. I'm coming to pick you up. Then I'll get some allowance money. I need money right now. Hearing this, I felt my feelings for her cool. To think I wanted love, praise, and even betrayed Dad for someone like this. I was filled with regret. Now I have my aunt and uncle. I have a place where I belong. Dad is watching over me. I can be strong. I don't have a mom, do I? Before I knew it, I had said that to her. What? What are you talking about? You must be mistaken. Goodbye. Wait. I hung up the phone on my own. The teacher beside me looked shocked and asked, "Wasn't that your mom?" To which, "It was a stranger," I replied. The call was treated as a suspicious call, and the school issued a warning. Worried that Mom might come to pick me up, I called my aunt from the school's payphone. My aunt said she would come right away and soon arrived. She explained the situation to the teachers, who contacted the child welfare office. After I went home, Mom apparently did come to pick me up, but the teachers handled it, and she left reluctantly with a dissatisfied look. Mom never stormed into the school again, but just to be safe, my aunt or uncle started picking me up before school ended. I felt sorry, but my aunt and uncle said, "Don't worry about it." With a smile. Thanks to them, I am living happy days. The teachers at school are also looking out for me, and I'm glad to have so many allies around me. Then, one day, a little while later, the phone rang at home. Lately, I've been answering calls to my aunt and uncle's house. So, as usual, I answered the phone. Hello. The voice I heard was one I didn't want to hear. Oh, Madison? So you were there after all. I froze, recognizing it was Mom. How did she know I was here? Nobody should have told her. Come back quickly. Things are tough here. She spoke unilaterally to my silence. According to her, her affair partner's company had gone bankrupt and they were out of money. If she was with me, she could get government assistance and couldn't live without it. She said she was in a de facto marriage with her affair partner and was considering breaking up if they couldn't survive financially. I couldn't quite grasp the story, only understanding that she needed me for money. That's what she had said when she called the school too, so she must be really out of money. As I remained silent, she got increasingly irritated. As I was being yelled at, the phone was taken from me. Turning around in surprise, there stood my aunt, smiling at me. But in the next moment, her face turned into a frightening one. Answer when spoken to. Are you listening? Enough. I can hear you even without the yelling. What? Mom's voice, audible over the phone, suddenly stopped. I was tense. Aren't you ashamed to be a mother? Telling your daughter to come back just for money? That's ridiculous. What do you think Madison is? You are none of your business. Madison is my daughter. Give her back. Who was it that left your daughter in front of a facility? Don't talk so high and mighty. I'll tell the police. Say that she was kidnapped. Go ahead, say it. We have evidence of the terrible things you've done to Madison. Actually, please tell the police. It might solve things quicker. What did you say? Listening to the argument between my aunt and Mom, I felt a bit down, like I was causing trouble. Then, my uncle, who had returned at some point, patted my head from behind. It's okay. Leave it to us. It's time for the adults to step in. Saying that, he took my hand and made hot milk again. Madison likes hot milk, right? You drink quite a lot of it. Yeah. I thought it was delicious the first time I tried it. That's why I like it. Hearing this, my uncle smiled happily. After a while, my aunt came back to the living room. Seeing my worried look, she awkwardly patted my head. What's with that face? Don't worry. She's no match for me. While fixing my hair. Thank you, I said to her. Then I helped with dinner preparation. I never knew helping out could be so enjoyable until I came to my aunt and uncle's house. A few days later, when the phone rang, it was Mom again.
Even though my aunt and uncle told me not to answer the phone anymore, I wanted to help them in some way. Madison? Mom is really in trouble. I need your help. Like I said before, I don't have a mom.
Well, what an ungrateful child. Weren't you raised by Mom? Have you forgotten the happy days spent with Dad and me?
The mention of Dad surprised and irritated me. I had fun when Dad was with me. But the kind one was only Dad. Mom abandoned me. I was surprised at how loud my voice was when I spoke up. Then I felt my mood clearing. From then on, I talked back to everything she said.
Are you even my child? I didn't abandon you. I just left you there.
You said, kids are a nuisance, so go to the facility. You said it while laughing. Such a person is not a mom.
I was forced to say that. It's not my fault.
Still, I was abandoned. So I don't have a mom. If I have a mom, it's Abigail. Dad is Timothy and my deceased dad.
Are you brainwashed? Stop talking nonsense and come back quickly.
Before I knew it, I was arguing with Mom while crying. But strangely, I felt lighter, as if I had been holding back a lot until now.
At least, let me live in the house you're staying in. I can't even eat if things stay like this.
No. Don't bother the people I love. Suddenly feeling someone's presence, I turned around to see my aunt and uncle standing there. My aunt patted my head. Well said. My uncle nodded, almost crying. Then my aunt took over the phone, talking to Mom. She seemed strangely happy. According to my uncle, he was happy to hear my words. I'm glad to be called Dad. He also said to me. It was something I said on my own, but if they're happy, maybe it's okay to think that way? I felt happy too. After that, there were no more calls from Mom for a while. Probably thanks to my aunt and uncle. Since I started living with them, they bought me a mobile phone. I was so excited to have my first mobile phone, and I exchanged contact information with friends who had phones, enjoying more than ever before. On a day of continued peace, the house phone, unusually, rang. Since the incident with Mom, the school had started contacting my aunt or uncle's mobile phones, and I had been given a mobile phone, so calls from friends came to my mobile. Wondering who it could be, I answered hesitantly. Hello. Contrary to my high spirits, the person on the other end sounded very down. Hello, it's me. At first, I didn't recognize who it was and thought it might be a wrong number. I had been told at school not to talk to strangers, so I was about to hang up. It's Mom. You've forgotten my voice? Ah. Upon hearing this, I listened carefully. And indeed, it was Mom's voice, but so lacking in energy that I had not recognized it. You're already in 6th grade, aren't you? There's no one else here right now. Saying that made Mom start to cry. I was stuck, not knowing what to do. Actually, I'm in the hospital. I've fallen ill. What? Hearing about her being sick and in the hospital made me think of Dad. Now, recalling him doesn't make me sad. Rather, I feel energized by the good memories he left me. No one is here to take care of me. Could you come and take care of Mom? And the hospital bills are piling up. I can't pay them. Can you ask Abigail for me?
Say something, will you?
Why should I, a stranger, take care of you?
What?
I refuse to pay for the hospital bills. And I won't tell Abigail.
Don't get cheeky with me. Don't get too big for your britches.
She sounded too energetic for a sick person. Hearing about Mom being ill didn't shake me like it did when Dad was sick. My feelings for her had truly cooled off inside me. No matter what she said, I no longer felt fear. I didn't want to complain or say anything. Just felt sorry for her. I vowed never to become like her, even when I grow up. I was surprised at how coldly I could respond. I've been given a mobile phone. And we hardly use the house phone anymore, so it's likely going to be disconnected. So this is really goodbye. Hearing this, Mom panicked.
Don't say that. Please? Oh, then give me your mobile number. That's impossible. There's really no one to take care of me. No one to help with money. Then I'll contact someone who seems like they could help. Mom seemed a bit mistaken by my words, sounding slightly hopeful. Hearing her hopeful voice made me sigh. I asked for the name of the hospital and hung up. Then immediately contacted my aunt. I told her about the conversation, and she worried about me but praised me for handling it well. When I made a request, she agreed and quickly contacted someone. Just as I told Mom, someone who might take care of her. A few days later, I noticed the house phone ringing persistently. It was probably Mom, I thought, and I didn't answer. It continued until night, even when my aunt and uncle came home. When I mentioned the constant ringing, my aunt sighed and answered the phone. Sure enough, it was Mom, and my aunt ended up in a battle with her. Mom kept demanding to talk to me, and my aunt refused. Mom's voice, overheard through the phone.
I didn't hear that my brother was coming. Why did you call him?
She sounded panicked that her own brother had shown up. The person I asked to contact my aunt was Mom's brother. I had remembered hearing before that Mom greatly disliked her brother. He was described as very stubborn, a person of deep loyalty and sentiment. Therefore, her affair was something that couldn't be tolerated. Her brother, having heard about it from my aunt, seemed furious and said he would come to pick her up immediately. Their sibling reunion after several years turned out to be a disaster. That seemed to have directed her anger towards us. My aunt, who had been battling with Mom, was unusually replaced by my uncle, who said, "Let me handle this." He is usually very kind, so I wondered if he could handle Mom, but as soon as he took over, his expression became fierce.
He's scarier than me when he gets angry.
My aunt whispered to me.
Hey, cut it out. If you're so eager to talk, I'll tell you. I'll make you apologize in front of Madison. Sick or not, it doesn't matter. Be ready.
My uncle yelled, and then apparently Mom hung up the phone. She hung up. After the call, my uncle was his usual self, laughing. It seems true that people who rarely get angry can be frightening when they do. After that, Mom was forcibly taken to her brother's house. It turned out that her illness was something that could be cured quickly, and she was able to leave the hospital soon. Mom, who had planned a lavish life with her affair partner, was taken to her brother's farm and had to help with farm work while living there. She initially resisted the farm work, but under her brother's pressure, she begrudgingly worked. Of course, she couldn't afford to buy luxury brands anymore and had to use second-hand clothes given by the villagers. As for me, it seems that all the paperwork was completed, and I was able to become the child of my aunt and uncle. They threw a celebration party for me, and I laughed more than ever before. And surprisingly, I found out that next year I would have a little brother or sister, which made me very happy. I resolved to cherish my family. From the bottom of my heart, that's what I think.
Really, she should just hurry up and leave this world. She's such a nuisance.
We, the married couple, said about our son's wife whom we disliked. Ever since she started living with us, she kept making snide remarks. Day after day of accumulated stress. I wondered if we had to continue living with her verbal abuse and harassment. Then, one day, for some reason, she gifted me a luxury car worth $50,000.
I got it serviced, so it's ready to drive, LOL, she said.
Having no interest in luxury cars, I decided to let our son use it. However, when our son returned home 5 hours later in the new car, he was furious at his wife. She was surprised and began to apologize, tears streaming down her face. I am Addison, 65 years old. I live with my husband Ivan, our son Jake, and his wife Betty. Ivan has been a construction worker for many years, and even after retiring, he still helps out occasionally. After graduating from college, Jake joined a top company and then incredibly started his own. It's a web-related company, but I don't know much about it. However, the business seems to be doing well, as he often happily talks about his colleagues. Originally,
Jake and Betty lived separately from us. But, concerned about us aging and living alone, he moved his company closer to our home. After becoming independent, they started living with us, but instead of a happy family, a major problem arose. Betty, our son's wife. She constantly found reasons to complain about me and Ivan.
The bathroom is dirty. Ivan, don't use it, please.
How dare you speak like that?
But it's really dirty. It's just unhygienic.
Ivan, having worked in construction, sweats due to the physical nature of his job. Even though he's over 65 and retired, there's a serious shortage of workers. So he helps out a bit. He often bathes first. But it always causes a conflict with Betty. Both Ivan and Betty are straightforward, so they never got along. Betty has been in a bad mood ever since she moved in with us. Born and raised in the city, she probably hated the idea of living a bit more rurally with us.
What is this house? There are bugs.
Well, of course, there are bugs.
Unbelievable. I never had bugs when I lived in a condo. This is the worst. Get them out.
Our house is a single-family home. Jake rebuilt it, so it's pretty nice, but somehow, spiders and other bugs get in. There seem to be other dissatisfactions, like the department store being far away.
Addison, what is this meal? It's like something for the elderly. I can't eat this.
Is that so? I'm sorry.
Huh, this is really the worst. I'm ordering delivery. I don't need mine.
Betty said this and began fiddling with her smartphone, her knees shaking. Her harsh words made me shrink back. Betty ate pasta and hamburgers she ordered for delivery. Our meals were more vegetable-heavy, but even that seemed to irritate her. Also, she never did any housework.
I can't be bothered with chores. Addison, please take care of it.
All right. I always felt like a housekeeper in my own home, uncomfortable. The strong-willed Betty really didn't get along with Ivan. Ivan is also strong-willed and blunt, so they were always arguing.
Ivan, don't just sit on the sofa when you get home. Huh? Why do I have to listen to you? Because you've been working and sweating all day, right? It's dirty. Now I can't use the sofa. What did you say? Both of you, calm down.
It was always like this. However, Betty's attitude changed when Jake came home. She would be all smiles and charming when Jake was around. I'm home.
Jake, listen. Ivan was being mean to me again.
Again? Dad, don't be too harsh, okay? And Betty, Dad isn't a bad person, he's just blunt.
But Ivan's way of speaking is unacceptable. It's scary.
When Jake was home, Betty clung to him. We were so astounded by her quick change that we were speechless. Then, Betty's harassment escalated beyond verbal abuse. She rarely cooked, but one day she decided to make a meal. It was a weekday lunchtime, so only Betty and I were home. She seemed to be making pasta, warming up some ready-made meat sauce while looking at her smartphone. The moment I tasted the dish she served, I started coughing.
It's spicy. What is this?
Haha, your face is so red.
That's hilarious.
Betty laughed out loud. She put death sauce, hotter than Tabasco, into my portion. She laughed at me as I desperately drank water and coughed. Other harassments included setting the bath water too hot and deliberately dirtying the laundry. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to talk to Jake. Sorry to bother you after work. It's about Betty. Things have been really bad lately. Bad in what way? She purposely put death sauce in my lunch, made the bath too hot to enter. If there are things she's unhappy about, I'm willing to try and fix them, but could you talk to her? Really? Jake was surprised and called Betty right away. Are you harassing Mom?
No way. I would never do that. What did Addison say about me? That's terrible. But you put death sauce in my lunch the other day. And there's more.
That's not true. I just wanted to spice things up a bit and it went wrong. I just wanted to make a delicious pasta for Addison. I'm not good at housework. Mom, I'm sorry. Betty isn't really good at housework. It wasn't on purpose. I'm sorry. I'll stay away from housework since I'm causing trouble, she said in a voice filled with false regret. I wanted to scream out that it was all lies, but I was too scared to think about Jake believing Betty and leaving. Jake, our beloved and only son, who we raised so carefully. I didn't want to become estranged from him at this age. I had no choice but to stay silent. Betty's harassment only got worse.
Addison, isn't the meal ready yet? You're so slow.
I was just cleaning. Can you wait a bit? You're so clumsy. You could help out a little.
But you said I shouldn't do housework. I'm not good at it, so it's your job, Addison.
Oh, and since the weather is nice today, please wash our room's sheets and pillow covers. She laughed heartily. I was exhausted, used by Betty every day without rest. Ivan was worried, but I had given up and said nothing. Then, one day, something happened. Betty came to me with a pleased look.
Addison, as a thank you for always taking care of me, please accept this gift.
She handed me car keys.
This car cost $50,000. It's been serviced and is ready to drive.
The dealer had driven it over, and a luxury car was parked in front of the house. Why all of a sudden?
I thought you could use a new one since your car is old.
Indeed, my car is getting old, but...
You're happy, right?
Thank you. Confused, I nodded at the pleased Betty. Satisfied with my reaction, Betty returned to her room. I didn't really need the luxury car. I decided to offer it to Jake and take his car, and talk to him that night. Betty gave me this car as a thank you, but I don't need a luxury car. You use it.
Really? Thank you. I'll try it out tomorrow.
Jake smiled happily. The next day, Jake went fishing in the new car. I was doing housework as usual, spending some quiet time with Ivan. Then Jake came home. But something was off, and he was slamming the door roughly. Ivan and I exchanged puzzled looks as an angry Jake entered the living room.
Mom, you got that car from Betty, right? Yes. It was suddenly delivered to our house yesterday. Is something wrong?
Did you touch it?
Of course not. It's a luxury car, so I thought it's best not to touch anything.
Is that so?
Betty!
After hearing my response, Jake called out loudly for Betty. Betty hurried down from her room on the second floor.
Jake, welcome back. What's up? Did you do something to the car you gifted Mom? What? What do you mean? I drove it today, and the engine oil was completely empty. What? You drove it?
I was shocked at Jake's words and covered my mouth with my hand. I was stunned to have given Jake a car with such a defect. Jake looked at Betty with a troubled expression.
It's like you wanted Mom to drive a car without oil. No way! I just wanted to give it as a thank you gift. Today, I planned to go see fishing and drove 2 hours to the spot. But the car made strange noises and even started to smell burnt, so I took it to the dealer, and they said there was no engine oil. Really? I can't believe there was a defect. Maybe the dealer forgot to put it in? I thought so too, but something strange happened. There was no warning light. Normally, when the engine oil runs out, a warning light should come on, but it didn't light up at all. What? I requested a proper service. That's a lie. What?
Betty's expression stiffened at Jake's words.
The person who repaired it happened to be the same person who serviced that car. He said it was strange to get a request to remove the oil and disable the warning light so that no one would notice. It was you, wasn't it? I don't know anything about it.
Betty had deliberately drained the engine oil to make me drive the car. The thought that the engine could fail or cause an accident was terrifying.
I never thought you would do such a thing.
No, it's not true. Believe me.
It is true. Ivan, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. Everyone fell silent at Ivan's sudden intervention. Then, Ivan took something out from behind the living room plant. He showed Jake and the others what he removed from the plant. A camera? Yes. We've been troubled by her harassment for a long time. Thinking you wouldn't believe us, I consulted someone at work, and they suggested keeping evidence. A young guy at work, who's good with cameras and computers, secretly installed these in various places around the house. He set it up so we can view the data on a computer. Ivan then went to his room and brought back his computer. He wasn't usually a computer user, but he awkwardly operated it and played the camera footage. All the harassment and verbal abuse against me were recorded.
Addison didn't say anything, but it was clear she was being relentlessly worked and was visibly tired. I'm sorry, but if things don't change, we want you two to leave.
Jake clenched his fists tightly at Ivan's words.
It's not true. This is all a lie. What's a lie? You've been lying to me all this time, saying Mom and Dad harass you, are too strict. How could you do such things to someone's parents? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I won't do it again, okay? I can't live with someone who can casually do such terrible things to others. Let's get a divorce. Divorce? That's a problem. Do you know how much that car cost? I took out a loan and can't pay it back. So you married me for the money. That's not true.
I couldn't stand to look at Betty's flustered excuses. I always knew Betty was after the money. She must have been freely using Jake's credit card to shop. Everything she wore was branded. Jake seemed not to notice, maybe because he loved her, but I always thought she was that kind of person.
So how are you planning to pay back that loan? You going to work? Of course you'll work for it, right? Since you gave the car to Mom. If I pay for it, it becomes my gift. Well, I'll do the housework. I'll work and then you pay me. And I'll pay back the loan.
I was appalled at Betty, who seemed to think this was a brilliant idea.
So you plan to dump the work on Mom and just take the money? You never did any housework, always making Mom do it all. That's not true. I can do housework. Then go cook something right now. What?
Jake pointed to the kitchen. Betty's face turned pale and she broke out in cold sweat. Let's see if your housework is worth paying for. The ingredients are all there. I had gone to the grocery store that morning. So there should be enough of everything. Betty, thinking she couldn't refuse, trembled as she gripped the knife. She appeared to be trying to make omelette rice. Her awkwardly cut ingredients were unevenly sized. Food spilled from the frying pan as she cooked, and the area around the gas stove was a mess. And the eggs were all broken up. The last time she made pasta, she only warmed up canned sauce. It was clear to both me and Jake that she couldn't cook at all.
And you were going to ask for money for this? You underestimate the job. Do you know how hard I work to earn the money you spend so freely? And to think you'd harass my parents while living off my money. I know that. But I was stressed. I hate this countryside living. Let's go back to our condo in the city. So you took your frustration with country life out on Dad and Mom? Yes. I told Jake I didn't want to come here, but he wouldn't listen.
Honestly, it was hard to watch a grown woman over 30 whine like a child.
Please, let's just live together, the two of us.
Betty repeated her pleas without showing any sign of remorse, almost begging. Jake, coldly responding to Betty, who was looking up at him while holding his hand, said,
Just get out, now. But I've learned my lesson. I'll work hard at housework from now on. Get out!
Jake shouted loudly, dragging Betty out of the house and throwing her out the front door.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'm sorry.
Betty cried and banged on the door. Ignoring her, Jake began to throw all her belongings out of the window.
Eventually, her apologies turned into quiet sobs. Ivan and I stood in shock, not expecting Jake, usually so calm, to be this angry. After throwing all of Betty's things out, Jake returned to the living room and deeply apologized to us. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize sooner. I was blind. I thought living together would make things easier for Dad and Mom. But instead, I made things so much harder." "You finally woke up," Ivan said. "Yeah, I knew Betty was reckless with money, but I tolerated it since we weren't struggling financially. But I never thought her character was this bad. I almost lost Dad and Mom." Indeed, if there had been an accident with that car, there could have been serious injuries. The lack of a warning light isn't just a little prank. Thinking about it now sends chills down my spine. Addison had it the hardest. "If you're going to apologize, apologize to her." "Mom, I'm really sorry." "It's okay now. Thank you for believing in us." I was relieved that Jake finally prioritized us. Just continuing our relationship with the Jake we'd always cherished was enough. Ivan, now that Betty was gone, didn't seem to care much, saying, "We got caught by a strange woman," and casually started watching TV. Betty, having picked up her belongings, was nowhere to be seen. After that, Betty called almost every day.
"It's your fault! It's all your fault!"
She would scream in a high-pitched voice until hanging up. When Ivan answered, she would just shout, but she seemed to cry and apologize when Jake picked up. The harassment wasn't just through phone calls. Garbage and dead rats started appearing at our front door.
"What's all this?"
"Let's get evidence first," Ivan said. He took photos with his mobile phone and cleaned up the mess, putting the carcasses in a plastic bag. There's no way such bold harassment would go unnoticed. It seemed Jake and our neighbors had noticed too. A neighbor friend called, worried about a strange woman lurking around our house. After asking Ivan's construction company to install security cameras, we caught the entire act on video. Seeing this, Jake sighed. Then the next day, Jake went to the police and filed a report. Eventually, Betty was charged with multiple crimes, including threats and obstruction of business. The recorded phone calls and the garbage left at our front door served as evidence. She also caused trouble by showing up every day at Jake's company to apologize. Such a selfish person. Her selfishness led to more fines, increasing her debts. After that, she apparently sold her branded bags and clothes to scrape by. She got a job, but, inexperienced in the workforce, she couldn't keep it and ended up working at a nightclub to make ends meet. Even there, she couldn't compete with the younger crowd and wasn't earning much, living day to day in a very old apartment. This is what I heard from a neighbor. After she caused a scene, crying and screaming at our front door, the neighbors asked what happened, so I told them everything. It quickly spread around the neighborhood, turning into gossip. I thought she would move far away, but without money to move, she's stuck near our lower rent area, living in an apartment about a 10-minute walk away. Any sighting quickly becomes neighborhood gossip. The neighbors, even more talkative than me, seem to know more about Betty's life. Rumors about her are endless, drunk every night, constantly fighting with different men. Jake's company is doing well, and he's busy every day. Seemingly done with romance for now, he's reaping the rewards of his hard work.
"How about going on a trip?" he suggested.
"Really?
That would be nice."
As an apology for all that happened. "Let's go to a spa." We still live together, Jake, Ivan, and me. Life has been peaceful and comfortable since Betty left. Jake occasionally takes us out for meals and shopping, showing his filial piety. I'm proud of how kind he has become. "Is there anything you want?" Jake often asks. But I don't really want anything. I'm not interested in luxury goods, and while I'm proud of Jake for starting his company, I don't want to splurge with his money. More than anything, I'm happy just living peacefully as a family of 3. Of course, I'd be happy if Jake brought home a wonderful woman next time. I hope he finds someone special and builds a lovely family.